I didn't realize it. Father, Son, because of guilt. Yeah, because well now that wouldn't be the part because Rick going, Kevin wanted to solve it. Because my son was
two coaches. Chris Young and his father. Friends.
I got and then dribbled and that's the first time in Arkansas that the father I've been listening to those
Lance in here, you want to see?
y'all got these fancy iPads now that
We can't figure out.
I don't know what happened all of a sudden.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting of the Greenwoods Council. And on this Tuesday, December the 8th, 2020, at approximately 7:03 p.m. Ms. Terry, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ralph Nader.
Here.
Dan McDaniel.
Here.
Tim Terry's absent. Lance Terry's absent. AC Brown.
Here.
And Rob Powell is absent. But we do have a quorum with the addition of the mayor.
Thank you. If you would all rise at this time, please, we'll begin our meeting with a prayer led by Pastor of Calvary Temple Baptist Church, Trent Hampton, and followed by our pledge of allegiance by the police chief before Dawson.
Calvary Temple.
I'm sorry, did I say Baptist?
It's okay.
I tried to get one. Sorry.
Point of order. No.
Gotcha. I would have done that to nobody but you.
I appreciate it. Okay, Lord, we thank you for a great city with great leaders and citizens who serve you, that honor you and respect you, Lord. We acknowledge that everything we have that's good is a gift from above, Lord, and we thank you for another state championship in Greenwood this year. We ask that you would let those continue as we continue to lead young men and women to be contributing members of the society and build a strong community. Lord, we ask that you let your presence lead and guide each and every item of business tonight, that you would keep us safe from harm and sickness in this area, Lord, that you would let us be free from depression and anxiety that accompanies so much. Lord, that good informed decisions would be made, that we wouldn't make decisions with personal preferences or political agendas, but that your kingdom, your will would be done, that we can do it for the betterment of all the community, God. I ask that you would give us a spirit of unity, let us be a light, let us show hope, and let us show your love. We thank you in advance for the blessings that you continue to put on Greenwood and our community, Lord. I ask that you let us be led by your Spirit. Let us be kept by your mercy and grace every day, Lord Jesus, that your kingdom would come and your will be done in Greenwood, Lord, just as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Trent, I will get with you next week and get the proclamation deeming your church now Baptist. And you'll wrap that up for you. I don't want to be there when you tell your congregation. Thank you for doing that. All right, moving along, we will, if the council would take a minute, if you have not already, I'll ask for your consideration of approval of minutes for the November 9th regular council meeting.
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
Sorry, motion.
Dan McDaniel, second by Mr. Maker.
Mr. Maker.
Yes.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgements. Everybody's here accounted for. Thank you for being here. We have the press. Thank you as always for being here. And then we have Representative Dr.
Sure, whatever.
Representative Lee Johnson.
It's pretty easy to answer to.
Appreciate you coming. I think Senator Matt Pitch is supposed to sneak in later. He's kind of sneaky, so we may or may not recognize when he gets there. But thank you for being here, Representative Johnson, and everybody else. Committee reports. I believe you have, for the most part, everything handed in. I believe, if not, as I always say, if you do not have something that's on the list, you have questions, let me know, or let Daniel know. We'll get to those folks. I know the Boys and Girls Club here tonight. Did you want to address the
to tell y'all from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for everything y'all done for us. Been a trying year, but as you see, that what we put in, we had our soccer season, which the numbers were down. Our basketball and cheer is the biggest group we've had in probably 6-7 years. We have teams everywhere. Cheerleaders, we're just thrilled. And we have invested a lot of money with our board has invested to make the place safer, spread people out. We're there a lot longer now because we've spread the games out, so we've followed all protocols. In November, we gave out 20 turkeys to the cancer families at Mercy. We've done that for the last 7 years now. We'll be issuing toys to our after-school children that are in need, as well as every year we like to get at least 20 toys or more, which we have, and we finish wrapping today to the battered women's shelter. So also we've done with the safety and stuff out there about $28,000 in improvements and repairs. So we're still trying to move forward. So we'll appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. SRCA, we reached out to Lisa and Deanna today to see if they wanted, or could make it, neither one of them were available tonight, but they may come, one of them may be here tomorrow night to, they'll be going over general budget tomorrow night study session, so we'll pass that invitation. And I think you're going to come back tomorrow night, which came, so anyway, they possibly, and I didn't see any update from them, did we not have anything? I don't have anything in my package.
It's on the due date.
Is it on the due date? Okay.
From,
SRCA.
yeah, they have a report.
Okay. My due date is,
Whatever
It
you
is
call
on
it.
your, you got it?
no, sorry.
Press the button.
Cool.
File the other side.
My first time. There we go.
Oh,
Okay, Parks Commission, I think it's all Mr. Goldstein out there. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, sir, you ran before you a list of what we've done in the month of November. Predominantly is to decorate the square and planting trees donated by Walmart. There's only one thing that I'd like to add to this report that's not there, is that is the Scout project, Scout number 54. They completed the bridge over at the East Loop on the trails down at the City Lake. It's a marvel. And when I spoke to Trey Smith and signing off on his documentation, it was interesting because I asked him what he's going to do in college. And after seeing the pictures of the bridge and stuff, he said he was going to take up engineering. So, he was excellent. Good job. Get a chance, walk the East Loop, take a look at it.
Thank you, sir. I can vouch for that bridge myself. I went out there, been out there a couple of times, once before they finished the approaches on both ends, and then Chief Brian and I went out there later. It's pretty impressive to say the least. And Rod I'll tell a real quick story. Were you there, Mr. Meeker, when the horses came through? The guys were building this bridge, working on it, literally standing under it. Now, this is per Rod, so take it for what it's worth.
There's a video of it.
Is there?
Yeah.
Two ladies came on horseback riding through the woods, and Rod thought maybe it was a good idea to get them under the bridge when they did, but they rode across the bridge on it. And it's not, what it has, 6 foot wide, is it
Yeah.
6? And they rode across the bridge, but Rod said he paid attention, there was no give. I think that's before the support brace went up, but it's a very impressive, it's I-beam and then wood, so it's really cool. One of the 3. Really cool. Water Wastewater Commission, I don't see Mr. Bailey here, so we'll move on to Citizen Forum. Did not have anybody sign up this evening to speak. Did I miss anybody? Lee, did you want to address?
This is a good time, Rob. I'm a citizen.
Absolutely.
If I can, I'll come up here right and look back at folks. I just wanted to come and see if y'all had any questions that I could answer about the pandemic or the government's response to it at the state level, or the session coming up, or anything y'all wanted to discuss, I'm here to happy to try to answer questions as well as I can. You know, I have different hats that I'm wearing during this thing. I mean, I'm your state representative, that's one hat. And then I'm a physician in the community working at the ERs here in town, and that's another. And sometimes those two things get blended in ways that other legislators maybe don't have to have that challenge just because they're not physicians at this present time. But I do have regular conversations with the Department of Health and get involved in a lot of different conversations about a lot of different things. And so if anybody has any questions about anything pandemic related, I'd be happy to try to answer it any way I can. And just the caveat that, you know, I'm only as expert as Google. So go ahead, yeah.
I was wondering, you know, you hear that we're kind of reaching our capacity as far as, you know, ICU beds and stuff like that. So, is there a plan, or what is the plan that, you know, when we do reach that capacity? Or
Sure. So, you know, right now, I'll say this about capacity. As a system, as a healthcare system, it's designed to operate close to capacity, always. And every winter, you know, if you'd showed up in the ER 2 winters ago at Fort Smith Baptist, and you'd walked in and there'd been 30 people in the waiting room, and every room was full, and you'd had to wait an hour to be seen, you'd have gone, yep, that's winter in Arkansas, right? I mean, and so in, you know, having practiced here over 20 years, there have been times over winters past where we've gotten full, and we've had to hold people in the emergency department, ICU patients. There's been times when I've been working at Van Buren where I've had difficulty finding a place to transfer. And that's just the economics of it, right? It doesn't make any economic sense to have 5, 6, 7 ICU beds holding open. And so true capacity, when we're talking about capacity, is staffed capacity, right? And there's geography. It's a big hospital. You know, you look at in Fort Smith, you got Mercy, you got Fort Smith, and then across the river, you got, you know, the Old Crawford County, which is Baptist Van Buren. That place is empty. It's a 60-bed hospital. You know, we've got virtually no one in it. So we've got geography, and that's not different anywhere in the state. But staffing is always the capacity, the regulating factor any winter. This has been particularly tough because we've had to quarantine across the state an increasing number of nurses over the last few months. And so from a capacity standpoint, it feels more pressed a little because of the staffing. But as far as the way the frontline hospital workers feel, I would say they're tired, you know, because they haven't staffed thin. And I think all of us are tired of the pandemic, but we're not overwhelmed at the moment. Now, the fear is this exponential growth. You know, every time there's this little bump, it's, oh my goodness, here we go. We're going to go, we got 20 cases this week, 40, 60, 80, and then the next thing you know, you're overwhelmed, right? And so when you're hovering here at 1,000 cases a day in the hospitals in the state of Arkansas, there's a point up there where we do reach a point where we're so thin we're having to do outside the norm practice patterns. And so we're planning for that. I mean, I think every hospital since this started in March, I mean, we've learned so much, right? I mean, if you rewind back to March, we were nervous. I was nervous. We were late March, early April, whenever that first started happening. We were watching what was happening in Italy. We were watching what was happening in New York. And I think a lot of us felt like, here we go. We got to make a plan. And we were having, you know, twice weekly meetings with all the hospitals in the River Valley region, every region in the state. We're having these meetings. We have disaster plans. We have pandemic disaster plans. All that stuff is there. We plan for all of these things. And we were at every hospital, I think, of any size in the state of Arkansas, during that time, developed a surge plan. What are we going to do? What are we going to do if we get overwhelmed? How do we spread out? Where's the next place? Simultaneously, the state, at the state level, was planning for what if we have to put patients in the convention center for some minute? What if we have to build a tent hospital? You know, and all those things sort of got thought about in March, and then we sort of put them away. And I think over the last month, everybody started dusting that off again and thinking about it in a different kind of way. I don't think we have a plan for geography gets overwhelmed, we have to build another hospital, we have to put people in convention center. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think most of us think that. But I do think we need to be able to, in a smart way, utilize every staffed bed in the state. Which is where, when you hear the governor talk about this trauma comm, that's just logistic management, man. That's a resource center that knows where every open bed is in the state. ICU beds, general beds, every staff bed, and instead of you sitting at Van and having to pick up the phone and go, hey, you got a bed? Nope, call the next hospital. You got a bed? You got a bed? You call this trauma system, which is already in place. This is how we manage trauma already. And you say, hey, I've got a 68-year-old with pneumonia who's intubated on the ventilator, not COVID negative. What's the closest place we can ship them? And they've got all the resources there to say. So that hasn't, we haven't pulled trigger on that yet. I think that's the next logical step. I think that all the things are in place to do that. We started talking about that in April. I think all of us know that, you know, we may have to do some outside the box thinking, like it may be that you have to take a patient in Hot Springs National Park, where they would normally keep a patient with pneumonia or chest pain or some routine medical thing. You might have to ship them to Malvern, where you wouldn't really do that normally, right? But to clear up some staffed bed space in a COVID capacity capable hospital, you have, and that's where I think having the trauma comm system work as your logistics center. So that's one thing that I think we're close to having institute to try to manage staffed capacity across the state. The other thing that's out there, if we need to do it, is there's something called the Arkansas Ambulance Alliance, which is it's a way to put more ambulances strategically around the state to maneuver transfers. We haven't done that. We don't have to do it yet, but it's available. There's a system in place to where if we do start having to do a bunch of weird transfers, we're not necessarily having to utilize, you know, Sebastian County and take them out of Sebastian County and send them to the Queen or wherever, Heber Springs. Again, neither of those two things are being exercised right now, but that's a plan. Those are two things that I think legitimately might get tapped into. The other thing is, you know, we're still, I mean, hospitals are still doing elective surgeries, and they need to. You know, elective surgery, I mean, if it's your bypass surgery for heart disease or your hip replacement, well, it's elective, but if it's mine, you know, so what's an elective surgery, scheduled surgery, whatever you want to call it, some of those you can put off for a little while, you can't put off. But the hospitals, I like where we've gone with that. Instead of having a mandate that just says everybody shut off this valve, each hospital knows kind of where it's at. And there have been some hospitals selectively cancel some cases for periods of time because of capacity issues. But that's another valve that's there for each of the hospitals to pull if they need to generate more bed capacity.
Lee,
Yeah.
kind of the elephant in the room with the council in the last couple of months has been this mandate on
These things?
mass resolution.
Yeah, sure. So let me
Tell us your thoughts on that.
yeah. So let me put my legislative hat on for a minute.
I wanted that side.
Yeah, sure. No. So I understand the point of view of the legislators who feel like the governors may be overstepped. I understand where they're coming from. I don't personally feel that way. But I get it. You know, there's going to be, right now, for us to function the way we have with some of the telehealth things that we've had to pivot to provide health care, we needed the nimble nature of executive orders. And to free up some of the funding. I mean, some of the funding, everybody gets stuck on the mask mandate. There's been a lot of executive orders that have been filed in this emergency declaration that are practical, just being able, so to take the governors, to just go in and say, well, we're not going to give the governor the ability to do that anymore, to me that's a step too far. But I do get this idea that, you know, how do you get legislative input in this situation, right? I mean, this is new. This is not something in our lifetime that we've ever experienced. And so I do think you'll see during the legislative session, you're going to see some legislation put forward across the spectrum from, you can't do any of this stuff without calling a special session and getting the legislators down there, to maybe something more moderated. And again, I understand that. I mean, I tend to agree with most of the governor's executive orders. What if I didn't? How would I feel? So I'm empathetic with that idea. I think it's going to generate good discussion in the session, and I expect there to be some legislative initiatives to try to change how we look at when you can come into special session. How long can you declare an emergency? Is it 1 period of time, 2 periods of time, and then you got to call everybody down there? I mean, or is there some sort of trigger mechanism? I think all that's on the table and fair for discussion.
If you were sitting at one of these tables here, would you support that resolution? Or?
I didn't see the resolution.
Well, I thought you'd seen it.
No, I will say that I would not sit at one of these chairs and try to pass something that was in direct contradiction with state law. I don't know that makes sense.
I think the resolution, everybody says mask, everybody talks about the mask, but there's a frustration among everybody. Sure. All of us are frustrated with the situation of, this is closed, that's open. Yeah. That doesn't make sense, and this is not uniform, and there's no common sense. And so therefore, part of the spirit, I think, of the resolution was we want to control this at a local level. Let the mayor decide what we're going to do in Greenwood, Arkansas. We don't want the governor to tell us what to do in Greenwood. And I think,
Well, like I said at your meeting, a lot of that confusion is self-inflicted. I mean, we've got some businesses that have chosen to open and others that do not.
It could, but don't,
yes,
because they
right.
don't feel comfortable, or because it just financially doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think there were some people that read the tea leaves and said, yeah, I can open at 25% capacity, but I'm just going to keep selling stuff out the drive-thru because I can't make enough money. So you're right.
I think this is going to get it's going to get worse probably before it gets better. I mean, Biden's today saying his 100-day plan is a mask mandate, among other things, and there's only so many things he can mandate at a federal level.
Right.
And so then he's going to push that down to governors and mayors.
So some of it is hard because I do think the Department of Health has some authority given to them constitutionally that's pretty far-reaching. Where they can come in with or without the governor and force a quarantine and do some things that on the surface, you look back to the 1918 Spanish flu and it's a different world and different time, and some of those laws got put on the books a long time ago. And so I think some of that will probably there's probably people who will look at some of those things. This legislative session is going to be very interesting because there's going to be some laws passed to try to support telehealth in a good way that needs to happen because of what we're seeing in the pandemic. There's going to be some people take pause and look at some of the things that's in there regarding the Department of Health and regarding the governor's executive orders. And I get where you're coming from. I support local authority, but also as a physician, see the need for some sort of non-political health-related entity that can make decisions that are based in science and aren't political. The frustrating thing about this process, and I get it, is that it's been go no go, right? And that's because we didn't even know this thing existed a year ago, And so we're learning all these new things all the time, and we're having to change our approach based on new information, and it makes the scientists in the medical community look like Senator Pitch. And so I mean, it's hard. It does. It makes it look like the health authority. I mean, if this were something that had been well established and we had good data to support what we're doing, but it does makes people. It's frustration, and I'm frustrated. I mean, I think all of us are frustrated. I've been frustrated. Senator Pitch will tell you, I've been frustrated to the point of being angry at the Department of Health at different times over the last few months. But I appreciate the work they're doing. They're in a terrible position, an impossible position, trying to make the best decisions they can. What I can tell you is that they, to a man or a woman, they're all genuine. I mean, they all genuinely feel like they're trying to protect. They're not political. They're all genuinely feeling like they're trying to protect the population of Arkansas.
I would just urge you guys, with the policies that may be put forth, not to become too stringent on them. Because this is not going to be the last time this happens. And so that the next time that a public health emergency like this occurs, and then you're having to backtrack and open those doors back up so they can do the job for the entire, the public that way. So I would just ask you guys to err on the side of caution when it comes to putting forth more stringent policy on the Department of Health. Like I said, nobody in our lifetime has experienced this before. So, really these guys and gals are flying by the seat of their pants, and making the best of it as they go. So, the more stringent policies that they have, the less tools that they have to work with.
It's hard. It's about risk mitigation, right? I mean, it's the analogy I've used many times and I keep coming back to is, car accidents and dying from a car accident. I mean, there's going to be people die this year from car accidents. And the best way to prevent that, 100%, we quit driving cars. Right? I mean, everybody just, if we want to quit having car deaths in Arkansas, everybody just quit driving cars. Well, that's not practical. You can't quit driving cars. All right. Everybody just set the speed limit on the interstate at 15 miles an hour. I mean, I'm telling you, as an ER physician, we're going to take care of somebody who's going 80 miles an hour on the speedway who dies in a car crash. And if they'd been going 15 miles an hour, they'd be alive, right? But we can't drive 15 miles an hour. That's not practical. That's not functional, right? So you try to find the most functional thing that leads to the safest outcome. The thing about car crashes is we have all this data. We don't have the data for the pandemic, but you try to take the precautions you can, right? So to me, when I look at these masks, I think about them as like seat belts. This is, and seat belts, of course, protect you. The mask protects other people. It'd be like if I wore a seat belt, it helped you not have a wreck. And I get it. There are folks out there who don't want to wear seat belts and don't want the government telling them to wear seat belts. Okay, but it's not an unreasonable thing, right? To say, hey, we're going to protect ourselves, we're going to protect our kids, we'll put them in car seats. We're going to make a law that says you got to carry a kid in car seats and they're going to fly through the windshield. I got to take care of them. That's where I am with these masks. I mean, is it an inconvenience? Sure, man. This one right here, my wife put it in the door, and she's got some air freshener over here. And right now, when I put this on, it smells like some air freshener. And I just grabbed it, so I'm sitting here smelling the air freshener. I mean, it's not perfect. I don't want to wear it either. But I am a believer in it making a difference in transmission and reducing transmission. And so I'm willing to do that. I think it's right for everybody to be on board to do that.
Put your doctor hat back on.
You bet. That's what I'm better at.
Are you seeing people that get it, are they starting to, are they getting it again? Or are they creating communities?
So,
is the curve changing?
I've not seen anybody get it twice. But I know that has happened. I've read about it just like anybody else. It has happened. I think generally accepted is a 90-day conveyed immunity. That's the CDC, unless they've changed something in the last week or two that I missed. If you get it, you get a 90-day pass on quarantine. So they're saying, look, for 90 days, you've got some immunity. Anecdotally, I know people who have drawn antibodies and have continued to have antibodies up to 6 months after. But I also know people that didn't after a few months. So I think it's just real variable. And we don't know. We know that the studies on the vaccine are encouraging, but we don't know how long the immunity is going to last. We just can make some immunity. But we think the vaccine provides greater immunity than having the disease. So I think, I don't know what's the right answer, best answer to that.
2 parts.
Yeah.
As a pastor and CrossFit coach.
Yeah.
So I see you at the gym a lot. So
yeah, absolutely.
Why does healthcare not take this as an opportunity to emphasize the importance of metabolic health, since that's the most susceptible to this?
Because you know, man.
And nobody wants to hear diet and exercise.
It's a controversial. It's a little bit. they're in the medical community, the mainstream medical community, you start talking about diet, nutrition, and you go down the path of metabolic issues, and there are some folks that look sideways at you, and say, well, it's not really about what you eat, And that, because there are extremes, right? You have physicians out there that say, hey, you don't need to take cholesterol medicine or diabetes medicine, you just need to control your diet intake. But I think it's a valid point. I think that the healthcare community right now is a little too shell-shocked to really start thinking about anything other than what are we going to do with COVID. But it is a good opportunity to emphasize. And I applaud the governor for sticking to his guns on opening gyms.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of my physical and mental well-being. And one of the things, back to this whole safest thing, the safest thing was shut all the business down. We can't do that. The economic consequences and the consequences of the healthcare, the socioeconomic determinants of health that come with poverty when you start shutting down the economy, that has a cost. But we didn't know things like the secondary attack rate. So the secondary attack rate is you quarantine. You have to quarantine because of close contact. If you quarantine, you're a close contact, right? So the secondary attack rate is what percentage of close contacts actually wind up getting COVID-19, okay? And when we started, we didn't know because we didn't have any data, right? And some of the first data was all coming out of Asia. We're just now starting to get data. Some of these new quarantine rules, we were just using this blunt thing of, we know you can be contagious for 14 days, so regardless of your contact, everybody just go home. And now we've sort of come back to, well, we think if you go 10 days, the chances of you giving it from 10 to 14 is so low that we're going to let you come back after 10 days. And if you test positive, if you test negative on the 5th day or later, that's the other thing, is that if you get exposed, the right time to go get a test is 5 days after exposure, which is crazy, right? You think people call you, hey, I was around my uncle, do I need to go get tested? 5 days from now. So 5 days after exposure, you get tested, and on day 7, if it's negative, you can go back to society. And that's because we have more data now. We know better. At some point, you get to the point where you say, okay, what was the degree of contact? If you're living in the house with somebody, I'm just going to get it. I mean, the secondary attack rate is really high. But if you sit across from somebody in a council meeting for an hour, it's probably pretty low. And so as that data becomes more available, I think you'll see people have a more surgical approach to quarantine. And to our point on the gym, I mean, as we've looked at things, when you look at the cases, it's not coming from double T.
Yes.
It's not coming from gyms, and it's not really coming from restaurants. It's coming from things like deer camp. Deer camp.
Easy.
Now, I'm just saying, man, we had the Halloween.
Don't blame it on deer camp.
Man, listen, man, we had the Halloween surge.
Deer camp.
And then we had the deer camp surge, man. And I was a deer camp myself, man. I went to deer camp, and all I did was sit around deer camp thinking, oh, this is bad. Everybody in Arkansas is doing this all over the state this weekend, and it's going to be we're going to see a little bump around Thanksgiving. And we did. We saw the last little bump around Thanksgiving, and now we're sort of getting over the deer camp surge, and we're about to see the Thanksgiving surge.
You heard it here first.
That's what's happening on beer camp.
It's real, man. We're going to see the Thanksgiving surge. It's going to be, we're seeing, unprecedented numbers of cases the last few days. 27,800 cases a day in Arkansas. Those are big numbers. And that's, testing positive is a leading indicator to hospitalization. So those people that are testing positive, that were reported as positive today, probably got their test a day or two ago. We're going to see those folks in the hospital, a percentage of those people, in the next few days. And so you'll see hospitalizations. I would be surprised if we don't see hospitalizations go up over the next 4 or 5 days. And then hopefully we'll see them sort of trend down again. And we get over this and get to Christmas. I don't think you see exponential growth in Arkansas. I don't think we have the population density to support that. But I do think as you have these gatherings,
Like championship game, sir.
outside. Outside.
Yeah.
I was outside.
Do you think that there's any natural immunity?
I think, yeah, I do. I think probably. I think what I know is I know it's real contagious, right?
Like that you said, if you live in a house, you're gonna get it.
I know it's real contagious.
All five,
And
I
so,
mean, four out of our five in our household had it, and
Yeah.
my daughter never did.
so it's hard to know, because the other thing I know it's real contagious. I also know the testing is not ideal. You know, I mean, if you, so the little rapid test, the rapid antigen test, the one that gives you the quickie, if you're asymptomatic, it's about a 50% false negative rate. So you might as well flip a coin. That's why we're not using it as big screening, because now you talk about like the NFL, it's just like flipping a coin, right? So if I flip a coin once, it's 50-50 heads or tails. Well, if I flip a coin again an hour from now, it's still 50-50 head or tails, right? And then I flip it again an hour from then, but the chance of me flipping heads, 4, 5, 6 times in a row is pretty low. And so, you know, if you can do a rapid test, and another rapid test, another rapid test, with each subsequent rapid test, the chances of a false negative start going down and down. Does that kind of make sense? But you know, it's possible that your daughter just had a false negative.
Well, we had her tested twice while we were.
And it's possible that she had some immunity. And it's possible that she had it and you didn't know it, because something like 40% of the people that get it are asymptomatic. You know, so it's all, but yes, I mean, it's possible people have some natural immunity, you know, some sort of crossover. I mean, this particular coronavirus is unique, but there are coronaviruses that we're exposed to. It's the spike protein we think on this one that makes it different.
Okay, here's the $1 million question. Given the high recovery rate, are we overreacting?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. The math of this is hard to get your head around a little bit because it is new. So everybody talked about herd immunity earlier, right? To get to herd immunity, you need about 60% of the population to get infected. So in Arkansas, that's 1.8 million people. You know, we've had 172,000 cases. So that's a long way from 1.8. But now, when you go back to early, we didn't know things like asymptomatic people were carrying it. We thought the data coming out of China was, we were getting this 80% of the people get it, go home, 20% wind up in the hospital, 5% die. I mean, those are, you know, we were looking at, are we going to see 5% of the population of Arkansas die? Or 5% of 1.8 million die? I mean, we weren't overreacting. And now as we come into winter, I mean, our healthcare system, it's fragile. It is. Every winter I get nervous. Because we're just so, it's delicate. It operates at capacity a lot, and it doesn't take a whole lot to push us to a point where it's hard to take care of the guy that's having a heart attack or a stroke or something else. And so I don't think we're overreacting. I think you could go back and say we overreacted early. I think it's easy to look back and say we thought New York and Italy were going to happen in April, and it didn't. You know, we can. But right now, I think everybody's probably appropriately anxious, or some people too anxious, sure, or some people not anxious enough, sure. But I think as a general pulse for the state right now, the people, you know, the people in the healthcare related areas are probably about right, and I think I wouldn't want to back off any of the precautions we're taking. And if it got much worse, I think you start looking at, are there other things we need to be doing? But I think right now people are pretty, I think we're in a good place right now. I think we're reacting appropriately right now.
We're going to see additional mandates on Thursday.
I don't think so. I mean, you're talking about federally or?
Well, the governor's supposed to be making a speech Thursday evening.
Well, I talked to AC this morning, just an hour ago. Send a picture, they're going, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I don't think so. We could, but that's not, Senator Pitch can pitch in, but I don't, I mean, the sense, I don't get a sense from the governor's office that there's an appetite presently for more closures or mandates, or I think
he's getting pushed by a subset of folks.
He is.
For much tighter, but that's not in his wheelhouse. He wants to stay the course.
I agree. I think the sense I get now from him is he's listening. He's hearing what people are saying. There's definitely some people who are pushing for more closures, but I don't think, I'll be surprised if he comes out and does anything more. I thought for a little while we might close schools early.
Not until after the championship.
I didn't advocate that till after this weekend.
I didn't say.
But,
I done hit dinner camp, so it's all on the table now. It's all. The gloves have come off.
I'll be real surprised if there's any economic. I would be shocked really right now. Now, I think what you hear him say regularly is, if back to this capacity thing, if I'm, y'all got to know, Drew knows me. I'm just reading the tea leaves here. You can quote me on whatever, but I don't know. I don't know that I'm right. I could be wrong. We could be fixing it. It may not be. We get a little surge here for Thanksgiving, get over it, and then we get a surge at Christmas. It may be that we're freaking out 2 weeks from now, and if we are, then yeah, all bets are off, and we may have to reel some things in. But that's not how I see it played out over the next few weeks. And I think there's a couple of things going in our favor. Back to this idea of herd immunity. I don't know. Herd immunity is for a closed system. It's like if everybody lives on an island and a certain percentage of people get it, there's just nowhere for the virus to live. Well, Arkansas is not a closed system. We've got people driving in from Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisiana, all over, right? And so there's always new people coming in and out that maybe have it, maybe don't. So I don't know that you get to, but I do think there's some conveyed immunity, whether it's 90 days or 60 days, or there's some people, if you've had it, you're going to get some immunity for a while, not long ago. And so as we see more and more numbers, and that number of 170,000, I don't think anybody would tell you that's the number, right? That's the number that's tested positive in Arkansas. Whatever the number is, it's a lot bigger than 172,000. Depending on which experts you look at, it's 2 times, 5 times, 8 times, 10 times. Again, back to what I know it's real contagious. I know we haven't been very good at testing. I know it's been around since March. I know a lot of people get it and don't know they had it. And so I just got to believe that the number of people, I know we're pretty, don't quote me on this one, we're pretty crappy at social distancing, right? So it's not like, it's out there spreading around, right? And it's been spreading around so a lot of people have had it, I'm certain, a lot more than 160,000. So maybe we're a little closer to whatever that immunity state is. Maybe we're a little closer. The other thing is, the vaccine's coming, and it's going to come soon enough to help, sooner than I thought it would come. And these monoclonal antibodies, they have a chance of reducing hospitalizations. That's the new treatment for people that aren't hospitalized. Specifically for this subset of people who are healthy enough to go home. And as we start honing in on treating those people, I think that's got a chance of reducing hospitalization. So, I think, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for another few weeks, month. But there's going to be a point when we get past it.
Will they give me an idea when the vaccine, I've seen Europe started giving it?
So I talked to the health department today some, and so the way I understand it, the Pfizer vaccine will come first. It's the one that has to be stored at -70. It's a 2-shot vaccine. You get the first shot, you get it again in 21 days. It's still not had its emergency use authorization yet, the EUA thing they talk about. It should jump through all those hoops. If it doesn't stumble along the way, it will jump through all those hoops by Sunday, and then it can be shipped as early as Monday to the state. We're going to get 25,000 doses. The first round is going to go to frontline healthcare workers. So all the 25,000 doses are going to go to hospitals, and they're going to be given to frontline healthcare workers. So not your guys in the clinic, but actually the guys, which is what we need, because back to this capacity thing, it's staffed capacity. And we're going to give out all 25,000 because we're told that the federal government, when they give us 25,000, they put the other 25 back for the 21 days later. The Moderna vaccine is my understanding is the next one that would come out, and that would come out about maybe, if everything goes right, maybe somewhere close to Christmas. It's a 28-day window. It's stored at -20, which is common to a lot of vaccines. Your measles, mumps, rubella, your varicella vaccine, those are all. So there's lots of places that can store that. I think the plan is to give that to long-term care facility people or nursing homes.
Is this vaccine similar to your normal flu shot?
No, it's different. So it's a new technology, you know, you'll hear it referred to as the mRNA vaccine, which is, I mean, there are two general kinds of vaccines before this one. You take a little piece of the virus and you inject the piece of the virus in, and then you mount a response to the little piece of the virus, or you give an actual live virus that you neutered in some way that's not going to really cause a problem. Now there's this third kind that is really, this will be the first vaccine, my understanding is the first vaccine of this kind, but this technology's been around, they've explored it, looked at it, studied it, and they take a little piece of what's called messenger RNA, and they are injecting with that goes into your cells. It tricks your cells into making the spike proteins that are on the virus. Your body mounts a response to the spike proteins and creates antibodies. The spike proteins get destroyed. They don't float around your body forever. The mRNA that gets injected has a short half-life and gets destroyed. So the cell biology of this is complicated, but that's never going to get down to your DNA. It's not that kind of, it's a whole different, it sounds like that, right? RNA, DNA, but it's apples and oranges. So, you know, this idea that we're going to create some genetic super freak, you know, by giving, it's not like that. I mean, I think it's safe. If I get the opportunity to take it, I'll take it. I'm not too worried about it. But it is different, and that you're going to hear discussions about that because it is a different technology. It is new. I understand why people are a little anxious.
What's the magic number needs to get to the amount of people taking it? Because I hear mainly people say, no, I'm not taking it.
Well, I don't know. It's a good question, right? I think it's going to be a while before. I mean, the good news is the average, I mean, on that front, it could be bad news. The average Joe, you know, is probably not going to get a chance to take this till the spring. So there'll be a lot. You've had suckers like me line up and get it. You know, I'm still showing up, and I had to turn green or something, and you can feel pretty good. But I don't know. I think every little bit helps. You know, I don't know. It's magic numbers back to that weird herd immunity thing. Is it really a magic number? You know, I don't know. And how long does immunity last? I know it's gonna help reduce hospitalizations over time.
Well, you know, again, it kind of goes back to data, you know, that we collect and stuff, but, you know, it seems like in some ways, you know, when they look here in the heartland, whatever, you know, like Arkansas and Oklahoma and stuff like that, they're saying, oh, you know, well, it's increasing here, you know, because we're not, you know, doing the right thing. We're not wearing our masks, we're not social distancing. And part of me thinks, well, no, it's just the kind of natural progression. You know, it seems like it starts on the east and west coast and the thing migrates this way.
It's increasing here because we haven't, not as many people have had it.
No, it's because deer season starts.
Deer season. If you put that in the paper, Representative Dr. Johnson says no more deer kill. I've got a picture of a nice deer I killed every morning right here on my phone.
But also the combination that it seems like to me the virus attacks people more so with compromised systems, you know, than it does with, you know, healthy individuals. And I'm thinking, well, during the wintertime, you already have colds and influenza running around, you know, and so it's going to attack those people that already kind of have.
I would be hesitant to blame anybody for, I mean, it's not anything we've done. You know, it's not that they're good to one place and we're not good in another place. I mean, you know, this was never about, I mean, again, think back early, this was never about we're not going to have a curve. This was about, you know, flattening the curve. I mean, we're going to have people get it. It's just, can we slow it down so we don't have more hospitals? So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's that we've done anything different to give it to ourselves. It's just, yeah, coast to end, population density is slower to move around, and we're spread out. You know, we're pretty naturally spread out in Arkansas.
Well, you got Dennis and I think Kenny both.
Kenny had a question.
I did say, with youth sports, y'all, the governor formed the sports committee back in June.
Yeah, I got to be a part of that.
Yeah, and he's been talking a lot about the indoor lately and the gatherings. Do you see that affecting, well, you've been a member, a board member and everything else with us, and we appreciate it, but do you see any of that impacting us?
I think that when you look at, when you're looking for things to try to reduce the spread, actions to take, looking at things that have limited economic impact makes more sense than not looking at those kind of things. So things like school closures, sporting events, those are things that, I mean, I recognize have some economic impact. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think, I'm still active on that task force. I think there's been discussions about should we try to do more to limit capacity at all indoor facilities, you know, not just sports, but should we be doing more? Because I do think, when you look at how I think this is spread, indoor is probably more worrisome than outdoor. But we made it through volleyball season, and I don't know of any cases that were documented from a volleyball game. And we had volleyball players get it, but they got it because they were doing whatever they were doing away from volleyball. You know, and volleyball is real similar to basketball. It's a little more crowded on the gym. So I don't think so, Kenny. I don't think we're going to get to a point where we start restricting things more than we are right now.
Right.
But we could, and I think if we start seeing capacity increases, I think the things that will start getting restricted first would be things like some of the sporting events. But I don't think there's great data to support. I mean, again, looking at this through the AAA's eyes, you know, we're not seeing a lot of spread from people playing sports together. It's again.
Well, you know, like we can't have like basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments. There was a little hole for a while on baseball and all this. And where we're located, here's what I see. Every travel baseball team, basketball team, soccer team, flag football team, you name it, they're in Missouri and Oklahoma every weekend.
I know.
And so they come back here, and which we'd like them to stay here because we'd like to host some. And I just think if the border states are allowing it.
I feel you, man, but it's going to be hard to get any movement forward, releasing stuff,
Right.
until we see a turn in the numbers. I don't think we'll take any step backwards, but it's hard to go advocate for, hey, they're having tournaments over in Oklahoma, we ought to have tournaments in Arkansas. It's going to be hard. Now, I think in the summer, when you look at those numbers, it was easier to say, hey, everybody's playing baseball, we're fine, let's play football.
Right.
But I don't think you'll see any advances, but I don't think you'll see retreats. Somebody else have it? Yes, you have a question?
On the vaccine, do you see it coming where it's going to be mandatory like that?
No.
Okay. There's some question around.
Listen, there is no appetite at any level. Senator, no, there's no way. None of us say, we're not making you do anything like that.
Well, you hear, like over in Australia, where you can't afford quantum.
US, man. No, I don't think we're going to do that.
That's not going to come.
I mean, I would fight against that personally, and I think other people would. And I've heard the health department, Secretary Romero said several times, we're not mandating this, we're going to make people do it. I don't think anybody has an appetite for mandating a vaccine. It's not Arkansas.
One more question. On the old name.
I'm having a good time. This is a lot more fun than council meetings. I should just done this instead.
On the old Navy blood, is there any truth to that?
I don't know. I don't know what we know for sure. I haven't seen any study. You know, early on they talked about hemoglobin and some of the things there. I haven't seen anything that I would consider reliable source material to give me, to let me think that that's true. And there's a lot of propaganda, right? I mean, I'm not a believer in hydroxychloroquine, zinc. I haven't seen anything that makes me think that is scientifically helpful. You see all these, you see other colleagues of mine say, I've treated 1,000 patients with hydroxychloroquine and not a one of them have died. Well, guess what, guys? I've laid hands on hundreds of COVID patients, and I don't think any of them have died yet. That doesn't mean I've got, miracle hands. I mean, the truth is that most people don't die. I mean, it's a small percentage. And so you could say I'm treating them with Pepsi Cola and they're doing fine. And especially if you're selected for the people you're seeing in the clinic, they're not sick enough to be at the hospital. Now you're self-selecting for an even more likely group to just get better on their own. So, for me, if I get sick enough to go to the hospital, I want you to give me remdesivir and whatever plasma, anything, steroids, and if you're sick enough to go to the hospital, sure, but I'm probably not going to get sick enough to go to the hospital, so why do I want to throw something at me that's, I don't know for sure is going to work, it might make me sicker, and I wouldn't do it.
I can see the headlines now. Dr. Johnson says Pepsi Cola.
That's it. Sorry, I mean Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Dr. Pepper. I support all soft drink
donates to his
I'm
campaign.
not sure how I feel about the soda tax.
I'm a believer that the you a tequila shot.
There was,
Works for me so far.
there was the, oh man, gin and tonic theory for a little while, you know, because their
Yeah.
malaria, it was supposed to help
That was
with
very malaria back then.
So there was the whole, maybe you drink right and you get out of COVID.
Well, like I said, I'm from the southern part.
Y'all have any other things y'all want to visit with? You know, I feel like I talked about all that. I enjoy talking. I apologize for not coming sooner to visit with y'all. I mean, I feel like y'all are family. I should have come down here sooner. I should have come talk to y'all sooner. I've just been busy. And I don't have a great excuse other than I've been running around like a chicken with a head cut off. You know, mayor, chief, Dennis. I've had, Bob, I've talked to, I've talked to most people in the room.
We've gotten a lot of direction from that.
But I haven't been down here to talk to y'all, and for that I'm sorry. But y'all know my number, all y'all know me. Just if y'all got a question, y'all know I'm gonna be honest with you, tell you what I feel.
I think it's a good feeling to know that we can.
Yeah, y'all call me, man. Y'all call me. Again, I may not be right, but I'll
Yeah, we
sure
trust you.
talk like I know what I'm talking about. I'll speak with
Just say it with authority.
I will, man. I'll just roll. Session's going to be interesting. I sent Greg a water bill that municipal league's looking at. So there'll be some good stuff in the session. It'll be interesting. If y'all have things you get interested in, let me know, and I'll try to come back and not be a stranger for so long.
Thank you.
That's it. I'm not going to stay till y'all get back. I'm going to see my wife.
No, yeah, it's a requirement. You know how that works. I don't think, we've had many good citizen forums over the years, but I think that's the most informative citizen forum we've ever had, ever in a day. And Senator Pitch, he used all your time. But thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm all right if you need me, y'all guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator, you're up. You told me not to even acknowledge you were here.
I'm just here to listen.
All right, that was very informative. Ironically, that Lance was the one, and I'll just say, he was crying last month, and he's not here tonight, but unfortunately for him, he is. I was gonna say that, he's using his dad, we hope that turns out well for him, obviously. He wasn't crying, he just didn't say, he was like, I've got to leave now. And, but anyway, and he's ready to come back anytime.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we need an honest show of hands. How many people in the room watched AETN but listened to Tim?
I tried. I couldn't get you to stay on. You're my radio. I got a little rinky-dink radio, but I tried. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
By the way, great job. Yeah.
Well, Swafford did a good job, but you outpaced him.
Yeah.
I tell him that all the time.
Well, tell him there's two of us that believe it then.
I will tell you this, and I'll go on record, he did call Coach a jerk one time because he kept doing everything the opposite Bobby Swafford said he would do. And they just, both teams did that. Yeah, so he was joking. But yeah, congratulations to the Bulldogs, the voice of the Bulldogs. So thank you for doing that. All right, we are at our financial reports. Mr. Tom?
Yeah, you have it all. I'm not going to go over the detailed numbers. I'm just going to give you three highlights. On the city sales and use tax side, November over previous year, November was up 22.4%. That rebounded from 12.3% of the previous month. Our cumulative numbers rose to 15.9%. Does make it a little challenging in trying to do budget revenue projections. As far as the last year was concerned, we ended 2019 with a 2.7% overall cumulative growth. So right now we're tracking about 13.2% above our cumulative growth from last year. That's in the city sales and use tax side. On the county side, our growth of November over 1 year ago, November, we are up 9.6%. Which is relatively high numbers, third highest in the month, in the year. As far as our cumulative growth is concerned for county sales tax, we're up at 5.3%. Just so you know, we ended last year at 1.4%, which is typical as far as our county is concerned. So we're up 3.9% cumulative for this year over last year. As far as the A&P, which is the last thing I give you as far as the graph is concerned, the advertising promotion collections are up 10.76% for the year. Although I will tell you that the anomaly seems to be over, we are tracking at a normal growth pattern for the last 3 months in A&P. Usually we track at about 2.5% up. We're tracking right at that right now. So it looks like we're in a normal trend now. So as far as the A&P Commission is concerned, we're somewhat aggressive in their budget. They are looking at an 8% growth rate for next year. However, I'm still analyzing what the pattern is going to be after this next month. As far as that anomaly, I'm thinking about lowering that projection maybe down to 6% instead of keeping it at 8. 8 is what we were told by some of the people that are on the A&P Commission that represents some of the entities that pay into it, said that they're looking at this year an 8%. That's their run rate right now, growth. So it would not be outlandish to have an 8% rate, but as I see on our representative sample, most of the groups go up and down. We do have a lot on the lower end versus the higher end. Now, for the month of October's collections, which we received in the month of November, all of the entities that are in the representative samples had positive percentage growth. Half of them had double-digit growth in the month of October's collections that we received checks for in November. That's the first time that's happened in any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months that we've been tracking. So A&P is a little bit of a challenge, but it's a nice one to have. And if you have any questions on any of the other documents that are there, I'll be happy to answer them. You can contact me anytime during the day. Tomorrow, and tomorrow's budget study session will be general and street. And that starts at 5:30? 6 o'clock. What do we have?
Gumbo.
Gumbo.
Or chicken dumplings, whichever one.
I thought you said scum.
Would you like to vote? Would you like to vote? I'll call a roll for a vote for chicken or dumplings or gumbo. Sir? This is pretty serious stuff here.
I can't taste or smell, so it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
no.
Mine don't count.
And it's deer can. Yeah. Daniel?
Gumbo.
Mr. Terry?
Gumbo.
Lacy?
I was gonna say dumplings.
Oh,
So we want both.
I'll take,
Yeah,
you do.
Okay. I told her what it was easy to fix.
Lance would vote dumplings,
What do you?
I
Okay.
think so.
you think it'll be back?
Yeah.
but Rod would vote gumbo.
So not any break time? Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
We will eat it.
It'll be a surprise.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. We'll move to agenda additions. We do have one, it'll be number 13, and it will be fire department waiving competitive bidding on generator ordinance. Thank you. Number 13. Before I get into old business, I'm going to say something real quick and thank some folks in the room in regard to last night's Christmas parade. I'm kind of out of order here, but there is no order for thanking folks, I guess. But the Christmas parade was a unique, to say the least, but it absolutely worked. I was there, I witnessed it. We stood from 6 o'clock or whatever time until I think it officially started at 7. I don't know what time I was there. Anyway, nothing but cars. It was very similar in effect with as we did with the Halloween candy at Bell Park. But we had it, as you know, it was held at this high school. I don't have any floats, 13, 15, maybe 20, I don't know.
20,
But it worked very well. People were in line for a long time. We asked them their response, but they seemed A-okay with it because they all got a lot of candy. My biggest worry all night long was running out of candy, and when we ended, we had 6 pieces left. And I don't mean 6 baskets, I mean 6 pieces of candy. So it went really well, and thank the normal folks that are a big part of that, obviously, is the Chamber of Commerce, who You guys just put it up. Bob and Mark, Ray Webb, who did his normal parade walk every 5 minutes. He was walking by telling me how much we were gaining on the line. I'm like, sure we are. But those guys were there. Of course, again, fire department, police department, thank you for helping with the traffic. And thank you, Danielle, for being right beside me to hand out the candy along with your lovely daughter. And Tammy was there, of course. But anyway, I thought it went really, really well for what.
What's the official name of that? Is it a reverse parade?
Bob, what is the official name of that? Reverse parade?
It's called a reverse parade.
Okay.
There you go.
I know for the minutes.
It must have been a good idea, because after we came up with it, Macy's stole it from us, and they did
Oh,
too.
There you go.
see,
There you go.
we're trendsetters.
Went off really well, so, and the kids got your candy, so that's what the important thing is. And the street department, thank you for coming up and sweeping later, and I utilized one of the street trucks too, so everybody loved the lights. So anyway, moving on, old business is, number one is the planning department ordinance repealing ordinance number 10-13, establishing building permit fee schedule, third reading.
Mayor, council, Jerry, this is the third reading for the ordinance that we presented to you 3 months ago. It's the establishing the new permit fee schedule. We made some changes on the second reading, but the third reading, we haven't made any changes since then. So I would appreciate if we pass this so that we can get started on our permitting for the first year. We'll be using these pricing.
Sonny, I don't think the electric gate opener got into the fee schedule.
Pardon me?
Reading the minutes, the electric gate opener that Rod had said that he'd been charged for in the past. We did change the $2 to $5 on the photo overlay solar. How do you say that? How do you say that? Voltaic.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I did change that to $5, but I don't see the electric gate opener in the electrical permit fee section. That's the last 2 pages. Page 4, that's what it is. Anyways, does it need to go in there, and how much would it be if so?
It would be the same as an electrical outlet. The outlet opening, so it would be 1 to 10. The gate opening would be $10.
Okay, I'll add that. Would it be called electric gate outlet, or what would it be called?
I mean, we put it in there, anything that we want to do, but I mean, it's really just an electrical outlet that the gate opener.
Does it not need to be put in there then?
I wouldn't think so. It's just
Okay.
it would just be just an outlet, out.
So it's already in there, and that's
Yeah.
what it's considered.
It's
So
just
it doesn't
not-
need to be listed
It's
separately.
just not called a gate opener,
Oh.
just like it's not called
It'd
a
be,
swimming pool pump.
yeah, you'd have to,
Okay.
Timer or
you'd
something.
have to
So
specify
don't put
everything.
that in there.
Everything.
Okay, well, we won't put that in there.
Toaster outlet.
Toaster outlet, yeah.
Then the $5, $2 thing is in there, and that's the only change
Yeah.
since the last reading.
And I think that's the recommendation that Councilman Brown made, or not?
Yeah, if you have solar,
Uh-huh.
it'd be the same as the, yes.
So that's it.
I make the motion that we approve this on its third reading by title only.
Right.
Whatever you get, I guess, with the conclusion of the gate opener there. we-
No, he said don't do it.
He's not, they're gonna, yeah, so you're making a motion to approve,
To put it on third reading.
we're
on
going to
title?
third reading too, and I have a second. Well,
Mr.
I was
Meeker?
gonna call you Senator McDaniel, before you jumped up.
Man.
There you go.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
And myself, Randy. An ordinance repealing Bureau ordinance number 10-13 and all other ordinances in conflict therewith, establishing fees for electrical, plumbing, construction, blasting, and special hauling, mechanical, and demolition permits and for other purposes.
Thank you.
All right, while I'm here, I would like to bring Hunter up, introduce you guys and ladies to Hunter Mickles. Michael. He is taking over from Seth. He dresses down all the time, but I wanted him to come tonight, and so y'all will know new face in the crowd, and if you've ever done business at Yeager's, more than once or twice, you probably ran into Hunter there. He worked there for
About 3.5 years.
3.5 years, and before that, he was in the house inspection business and has a construction background, so he's hitting the ground running, and Seth is working him hard, and so just wanted you guys to meet him.
Well,
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Hunter. We expect you to dress like that every day.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize it.
Yeah, he only good on the attic.
No doubt.
Summertime like that.
Covered in insulation. Yeah. Welcome to the team. Sorry?
Officially.
Officially, yes. Number 2 is another new business, is a resolution naming wastewater access road to Jayhawker Lane.
I'm going to motion we pass this resolution.
That motion second to pass resolution.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Senator McDaniel?
Yeah.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
No offense.
That's a promotion. Yeah.
Mr. Bell?
Senator pitches approval.
Mayor, Council, the next item on the agenda is for the request to the council for a variance for base flood elevation variance for Mr. Copeland Byers. Mr. Byers has the tire shop on West Denver, and he has a building there that is an unauthorized building that he's wanting to tear down, but he wants to build a new building behind that. You have a copy of the position of the new building in your packet. The issue is that our ordinance, our base flood elevation, is for a 2 foot above base flood elevation. You have the power, according to the ordinance, to give a variance on that to a 1 foot. 1 foot is the general recognized elevation around this area. I've talked to several engineers, and they said we're the only city that does require 2 foot, but so 1 foot is approved by FEMA, and y'all can give him a variance on that. What that will do, that will make the cost of construction of filling in that area quite a bit cheaper by just doing 1 foot elevation. Then he will put his pad on top of that 1 foot and then build a building on top of that. So in essence, you're almost getting back up to the 2 foot anyway, but FEMA does have a 1 foot base flood elevation requirement. So what we're asking for is for a variance approved by the council, and once if you approve that, then Mr. Byers can come in and start the process on building this building. He will have to get a permit for the building. We'll have to look at it and make sure that it does meet our commercial guidelines or our ordinance, and once that is established, then he can start construction on that and demolish the 2 buildings that are in question.
Did the planning commission accept this variance?
Yeah, well, it doesn't go through the planning. This particular variance goes straight to the council. Y'all are the deciding factor on this. If I took this to the planning commission, I feel very sure that they would approve that, but according to our ordinance, this comes straight to you guys.
Hey, Sonny, based on where this is at, his extra field, is it going to impact someone else's drainage?
No.
Or-
No.
I know that's kind of that part of the town that's kind of low anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
it's roughly in the middle of that lot, I think.
And two, in my history in Greenwood, and I've gone through 200-year flood, this property has never flooded. It's come close, this is, right down Denver from Greenwood Tire, and both of our 100-year flood, neither one of them got up into the Greenwood Tire area, got up into those, into some of the storage buildings behind Greenwood Tire, but it never got up into here. It was more down on, in the far southwest of the Denver, West Denver. But that's a good question, because, you know, that is a concern when you build something up that doesn't run off go somewhere else. But this would not affect anybody else.
I'll make a motion to pass this resolution, approve the variance.
One thing I would like to, add is that, to me, is the exhibit A as opposed to, to me, the exhibit A that I received, to me, was really just an elevation. It really wasn't kind of a layout of where the, building was. It says the submitted plot plan. I think this is more like a suitable plot plan.
Are we talking about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to make both of them? Exhibit A again and just include them both?
Yes, that's fine for me, yeah.
One of them's a rendering of what he's wanting to put there, that's listed as exhibit A.
Yeah.
I think that the
Yeah,
satellite view of exhibit A.
Yeah, this is a conception plan of what he wants to build there. Now, we will look at this and see if this meets our commercial design. We might ask him to put a faux brick wainscot on it or something like that, to dress it up a little bit. We just have to go through it as we look at the plans on it. But then the other one is a plot plan showing where the position of that's going to be.
Which I think the point is that this is more identifiable as
Well, the way it's,
A.
the way it's
according
referred to in the
yeah,
resolution. Yeah.
absolutely. All you do is say that's A.
Yes.
That makes sense, Sonny?
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay? Brian?
So do you want just the plot plan overhead view, or do you want both?
I'd like both.
Both.
Right.
Both of them. Exhibit A.
I'll do that.
Exhibit A's.
A1 and 2, or A and B?
Well, you're gonna have to change it. Well, you can change the wording there. A and B, is that good? I mean, that makes sense.
A and B would be better.
All right, I'll do
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So, to do that motion.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor.
Can't make much.
Second.
We have a second.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Also, we should do this.
Thank you.
This was voted on by council.
Good deal.
Thank you.
To read,
Against this individual.
was it
That was prior,
on this one property?
I believe so, right?
Was there a motion by Mr. Hamby? Was this part of the, I know we have moved
I just want to clarify, that's not happening.
No, that,
because he came in.
yes, after we,
So last month when y'all voted to proceed
after
with
we
the
talked
election?
to the council, he came in the next day, and I told him if he'd come up with a plan, that we would not go further with the suit, and that's what this does the plan.
I'll note that in minutes, because otherwise it will look really strange.
There were, and I think, there were, and I think in that same motion or same vote, there were 3 properties.
Two properties.
There were just two, and it's the Rock House on down the street. Okay. One's being excused and taken care of anyway, and the other's still.
Yeah, we're still pending on the other.
Did you have, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had a question.
I guess I should ask, Sonny, did you throw him a date on there, ASAP, on when he needs to get everything?
We have on our permits, he'll have 6 months to do it.
I appreciate your work.
Well, we've tried to work in the past, and it just finally came up to the point that he was in a corner and he had to do something, and so it worked out for the best. That's what we're there for. We could have saved him a lot of time, a lot of money if he'd come in on the front end.
And I'm not a contractor, but I believe you'll have a much nicer building that will withstand wind and everything else, plus it'll look better, so all win-win.
Yeah, what he's in now is scary.
New building inspector shaking his head, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Number 4, 5, and 6 are all related to, I had asked Danielle here a couple of weeks ago or so to start calling and checking on possibilities or grants that are anywhere out there. And she started with Wapiti, which is the place to start with grants, about seeking the grant or at least finding out what's available for a future new senior citizen center, whether it be for us to consider building a building purchasing property or anything, just kind of get her foot in the door with some of these grants. So she was immediately met with I think you, I can't remember who you talked to. Tracy at Wapatiti. And these 3 resolutions were sent back to us to say we need, one of the requirements to apply for some funding through the ACEDP would be to have these resolutions passed by council. We do not have to have them passed until February. We presented one to the chief. The third one, I'm actually going to remove it. I want him to take a closer look at it, let him see if we've already got something in place and not have to necessarily pass this one, but I am going to present these first 2 to see if we can go ahead and get those kind of approved and then on the shelf, ready to apply for a grant at a later date. So I think they're very harmless to say the least, and really just encourages involvement from our citizens. So the first one is resolution adopting citizen participation plan for Greenwood, Arkansas for other purposes, and it's pretty plain. It has an attachment also that gives you a participation plan. And please take a look at that, and it's talking about just letting people know what we're looking at, and then having, in a nutshell, having community meetings, public meetings to get their input on what we would apply for.
Well, I would like to just kind of table all 3 of them, to give me more time to kind of study the ACEDP grants. I don't know exactly, I'm not that familiar with, with that. And I don't know, to me, as somebody that would like, where everything I see, reading about the CDBG grants, it's all about kind of low and moderate income housing projects or something like that, and I'm kind of, you said it's just to get new senior citizens, with that. But I guess I'd like to just kind of, dig a little deeper into it and see that, kind of opening the door for other things just besides senior citizens. It doesn't really, to me, say that anywhere that that's the purpose of this.
No, it doesn't. It's just like any other. They're just no. And if you want to table it, that's fine. I'm just trying to get paperwork done ahead of time as much as we can in case we have a huge agenda. And I'm not trying to push anything down anybody's throat for sure, but it's not specific at all either way. But to apply for that particular grant, these would be required to be passed.
Well, I'll just say number 6, is required to get this. I'm definitely opposed to the number 6 resolution.
Yeah, I'm removing it.
Well, I mean, you're saying that till, Chief Dawson looks at it and stuff, but it sounds like to me, in order to proceed with the grants, we have to have this in place as well.
Well, unless he may very well provide his own document that will match that. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think you're going to harm anything, but that's up to you guys what you're going to do.
The one thing that comes to my mind on this first resolution, the one we're on.
Okay.
We need to understand, the administration needs to understand, and perhaps you do, what's the requirement from the administration after this is passed? You've got this, all citizens shall be periodically requested to complete a community needs survey. So we're going to have to create some community needs survey. We're going to have to,
and we've done
administer that and do that and have these meetings and.
It's very similar to what we did when we applied for parks and tourism grants.
Yeah. So all of that may be in place. I haven't had an opportunity either to look at all of this, so I'm not sure what it all means. But as long as you're comfortable with, I think everybody needs to be comfortable with the fact that I guess we have to do something different.
This find it's kind of odd that the excessive force resolution is very specific.
That's
on who cannot engage use excessive force on, that's a very specific topic.
That's why I'm removing it.
Do you want me to read why we have to have
Sure.
an excessive force one? You can go there?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
State your name and address.
Yes. Right down the road.
And your political position. We got two senators.
Senator Smith?
Senator Smith.
Okay, so we reached out, let me go backward. The mayor asked me to kind of research grants for the senior center, because obviously that building is in poor shape, and if we had the money, then it would be great to build a new one. So I reached out to AARP, I just began Googling and trying to see what we can do. Talked with them, they said that that's not something that they have funds available to help me with. Then I reached out to Cotton's representative. He said that there was a USDA grant that we could apply for, and then he got back with me and said, oh, your income is too high in Greenwood, you wouldn't be able to qualify for that one. So then I reached out to Wapatiti, and Tracy McKenna sent me back these resolutions and said that they would have to be passed by February in order for us to begin to apply in March. And when she sent that excessive force one, we thought, oh, maybe she clicked the wrong resolution, we better double check. So I emailed her to confirm that that's correct, and her response is, because the money comes from federal HUD funds, there are some requirements that may seem odd for your project, but they are indeed required. And then also, this has been a required resolution for many, many years, and it is not a reaction to any recent police encounters across the country. And she's had that question come up earlier this year. So that's why that's in there.
But for the chief's sake of it, or
Yeah.
concern, we decided to at least remove that and let him digest it.
Well, I think we can, yeah, I certainly want, Chief Dawson to look it over and everything, but, to me, even if, you take that prohibiting the use of excessive force by law enforcement agencies out of there and just say we're establishing a policy, and to put that wording down there again, all four of those things, where it seems like, I think we already had that in place, it seems like, we as a city, we already ensure, that our citizens can have mindful and, protective rights as far as, having demonstrations, it just seems like.
Even if we have policies that are in line with these resolutions, though, it sounds like they need these exact resolutions adopted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like the way they know,
So-
they've had to do this many, many, many times.
So far, that is the answer that we're getting.
Probably just red tape.
It literally is that. I mean, Senator, can you refer to this at all? I know you're.
Well, grants in general, they come with a lot of bureaucracy. I mean, there's an entire office down the road from where I built day job, trying to build I-49 and other things. And they deal with a lot of, you mentioned CDBG, I can never get those to roll off, but they've got a ton of bureaucracy and paperwork to fill out typically.
I mean, this person just smells like,
I think the mayor's
local, damn it. I'm gonna force you to say that you're not biased,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm gonna make you say you're not biased.
He's right, though. I think
We're not.
you've had several grants that you've filled out very similar things to most of the city. And you mentioned Tracy McKenna. She's probably the expert in the state here in Sebastian County writing grants on these things. So pretty much most cities follow what she says, find money to build projects. But you got to be careful. A lot of bureaucracy.
And I know that, with any grant, there's going to be strings attached, you got to meet certain things, in order to get that grant. But I guess I'd rather like to, for all three of them to just table it till, and I know, like I said, it puts you in the time constraint if we got to submit, by March 1st. But more about it than just kind of do it up.
Have you read this resolution?
Yes.
What do you think about it?
One more time, look at it. It's a touchy situation right now. We have obviously a use of force policy. There's just questions I have, and it says you want to, who's going to determine what the level of force was or what was needed, and there's so many things in that. It's just vague. I mean, there's specific things in there I don't like, but it's vague as far as who's going to determine those things in that policy.
Well, you understand the reason you're not going to use excessive force when folks are non-violent demonstration. I mean, but at what point does it, like you said, I mean.
Well, who determines at what point and what
That's right.
peaceful and what level it needs to be for it not to be peaceful?
I've seen people throw rocks on TV and they're calling them peaceful demonstrations, so, I mean.
Well, I would venture a guess that there wasn't a police officer present when that was written, adopted wrong.
Well, I guess that's what, to me, I think in light of the year that we've had, you know, and for us to come out with something that implies this kind of language or whatever, still it kind of implies that we, you know, don't back our police department, or we feel like they're, I don't know, to me, just it kind of implies a derogatory, you know.
Well, and in the day and age we live in, I mean, everybody's looking to point a finger at somebody for some nonsense constantly. And this particular, the first ordinance here, whatever this thing is,
Really?
the citizen participation plan. My knee-jerk reaction is you're painting yourself into this corner and opening yourself up to somebody to say, you didn't do this. You have somehow, you know what I mean? We're painting ourselves into this box of, we have to do all these things.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is.
Not that any of them are bad, but.
What's wrong with being painted into a box that you're reaching out to the community?
Right.
I understand that, and I'm good. If you guys want to table this, let's table it, move on, but understand that you're tying the hands of the administration applying for grants.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I mean,
This particular type of grant, I mean, like I said.
This grant particularly, yeah.
Okay, I mean, we've got another grant before, and, you know, but yeah, for this particular grant.
a lot of this bureaucracy is so complicated though, that once you get the grant, who's to say that 10 years from now that somebody's gonna come back and say, you can periodically do a survey on the citizens' needs.
I don't
mean,
think
they
anybody care, frankly, I really don't. I mean, I think it's red tape, it's like, I said, it's just.
We need a motion then to table all three of them.
I make that motion.
You have a motion?
I'll second.
Get a second?
Ms. Raker?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Jerry?
Yes.
Jerome?
Yes.
Do you want me to come back on the next month, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Do what?
Yes.
All right, moving on, thank you, gentlemen. Numbers, I guess we're down to number 7, resolution adopting policy for health insurance premium payments. This is per our auditors that we put something in place. Tom, do you want to touch on it, or?
One of the things that happened first was the fact that we had somebody around COBRA electing to have insurance paid. And you guys wrote it off because it was a legitimate receivable. Theoretically, the way the state auditors look at it is you're actually giving a loan. So you cannot, as a city, pay for somebody's benefit ahead of them paying for it. So it's the same thing with any non-employee who does not have a payroll deduction, because our payroll deductions collect for instance, the dependent coverage dues or amount of premium in advance. So December's amounts that were paid were actually for January's premium. So we collected in advance, and then we paid the January premium for January. So there's no problem with that because it's an advance collection. But the way we're doing the billing on elected on the city councilman, for instance, we're actually billing that concurrent with the actual premium payment. And by the time we get paid, we're getting reimbursed for it after the fact. So what we need to do is we need to collect in advance so that we're not in a technical situation where it's considered a loan, even though we collect the money. And one of the other issues we had is that we needed to bolster our recourse should the person elect to do it and fail to pay. So they wanted to meet in a teeth into the ordinance or the resolution that says that you're going to have the ability, and it's fully understood that your premium and your policy will be shut down. It will be immediately canceled. And then you'll have to wait for the next opportunity in order to elect back into the coverage. And that was something that was a substantial finding that was gone over with us at the exit conference, and this is the way we were remedying it. This is one of the steps that we're doing the remedy.
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Maker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 8 is a resolution amending salary schedule. This is referring back to the conversations we've had in our last however many budget study sessions we've had regarding COLA raises. And so Charlotte's put some language in there, and there's actually section 2 and 3 on the very last page, following up at the end of that schedule. The schedule has not changed, as you know. This is literally what we had discussed, and we want to bring this to you, gentlemen, tonight for your consideration.
The matrix on there is the existing last salary schedule of the old document.
Say that again.
The matrix, the whole salary schedule.
This is the one that was
Is the
adopted in
one.
17.
Yeah, that
2017.
y'all last adopted, just as it is. My members have been.
I'm not sure of how this ought to be worded, but section 1, all salary ranges in the below adopted matrix are hereby authorized to be increased and updated in conjunction with the adopted code, which is what we know. But think about this. If the financial assistant, since it's the first one on this page, if their current salary is, just say, the middle, you're a long way from the max. If we approve a 3% COLA, this says we're going to adjust all of these salaries by 3%. So we increase that by 3%, and we do it again next year, next year, next year. No one, this person, not even close to the max. You see what I'm saying? It's chasing out way ahead of it. I don't know if that's particularly wrong, but it doesn't, off the cuff, it don't seem right to me. You know, follow me?
Well, at some point, some jobs just top out, unfortunately.
Yeah. But, you know, what brought us to this discussion was we have certain positions that are at the max. We don't like this lump sum thing, so let's do this COLA. If that ends, I think what I'm saying is it would seem better to me to adjust those impacted by the COLA. I didn't say that correctly either.
No, not.
Well,
Not a salary range.
the salary range, that's max.
You're saying as long as they stay within the salary range, they don't get a COLA?
No.
Okay.
What,
Yes, that's what he said.
That's,
I mean, one thing they top out, they top out. That's my view on this, is sometimes you just top out.
Well, we want to adjust.
The reason this is brought to you, the understanding I got, and I don't think I'm the only one that got it, and if we got it wrong, that's fine, was that the maximum and minimum would be adjusted by a considered COLA every year. You do not, the council has the authority to give it or not give it, but that minimum and maximum changes. If you decide this year is the 1.3, I believe is what is official, then these top numbers change with that COLA.
No matter what that
No
employee's
matter,
making.
no matter what the
Otherwise,
employee's
you don't
making.
have a schedule that is keeping up with pace.
It would be, I suppose it would make, I mean, I'm talking myself out of what I even brought up here, but, it would be cleaner and make more sense to adjust everything on the matrix.
That's what we're doing.
That's what
You didn't read that right, but that is what we're doing. We're adjusting min-max, the whole range moves. The whole range.
If you so.
Well, I got myself hung up on this, you know, if there's a what got us into this conversation during the budget meetings where we have these people that are maxed out and there's nowhere to go, theoretically. So, which is kind of how we got into that. So I'm talking, well, why don't we adjust it just for those that are maxed out? But that really doesn't make any sense.
That's certainly not a COLA.
As I said, here to think out loud about the whole thing.
So will the matrix adjust every year?
No, just when you get a COLA.
Whenever you, council, approves a COLA. If in the years there's no COLA offered through the, I keep saying the government.
Social Security.
Sorry?
It doesn't want to say Social Security.
Yeah, if that doesn't happen, then obviously it doesn't, you're not even gonna make a decision to do it. But if it's.
What would be wrong with going ahead and having these adjust every year, will it?
Well, that's one thing.
At least it gives some wiggle room. Let's just say some hard times come through, tornado wipe stuff out, we tap out all of our excess cash, we can't do any pay raises this time next year. What's wrong with these min-maxes going ahead and scooting up for the next year? If we do get COLA, that gives them a little more wiggle room to move. I mean, why can't the max stay ahead?
It will.
I mean,
Yeah.
It will.
I see what you're saying. Adjust it by the federal COLA,
Right.
whatever.
If you want it like that, we can put that language in there.
Min maxes should never change. No, the salaries within the min maxes are what changes, not.
That's originally what it was supposed to be.
Well,
Yeah,
Now
that's
we're changing the
not true,
min-max.
because every
That's
time,
the way ours work.
well, every time you give a COLA, when I first came here, I debated this long. The COLA affects the
No, you
base rate of
we
pay.
didn't do one.
Well, the COLA affects the base rate of pay, which moves
Right.
throughout the thing. So if you're getting a cost of living increase and then you top out.
Yes, it changes the base pay for that employee, but it does not change the base pay or the max pay
Which
for
means
that
he'll never
position.
get a COLA.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is, if he's maxed out.
Well, then you can just make a one-time lump sum payment.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're
That's the whole.
trying to avoid.
That's the deal.
That's what we're
Some
trying to
payments
avoid.
That's what Tim's saying, at some point you max out.
Well, and listen to what he's telling you. He's telling you that at that rate he's making as a wage, every year he's taking home less pay because of the cost of inflation.
But I
So
think
at
we
some
should,
point, you need to look at the wage range.
if
At some point.
we created these min-max in 2017, so it's 3 years old, hasn't been adjusted. What Tim is suggesting, and I agree with, is whatever the COLA is, Social Security does that, right? If they come out and say it's 1.8%, we need to fix this document that says it slides with the COLA annually.
Annually adjusted to the rate.
Annually adjusted with COLA.
No, so listen to this. So you got an employee that hires in at this pay right here.
Right.
And so what you're saying, next year, he's gonna get 3%, correct?
No.
I mean,
This scale, and what we do in a budget for COLA are two different things.
Right.
You have to approve it.
Right.
This is giving the authority, if you approve the given COLA for any particular year, it gives this administration, that office, the ability to take that COLA and apply it to this matrix.
And y'all got
And I think
to
once
approve it
we-
again.
If we do it once a year anyway, I said, it's just a matter of saying, let's just keep, this is the salary range every year. If we choose to, say we want to apply COLA to it, then it will do it. But I mean, we're still going to be addressing it every year, one way or another.
Why
I mean,
can't it float even if we give pay raises or not? Is what I'm
That's what I'm.
It can if
that's
you
what
want to
I'm-
put that language in there, and then you just
And that
adopt
makes
a new
sense to me.
resolution every year.
If you don't like me saying you're topped out, sorry, then this is what we need to do. Have it
Because-
work. Well, you can't ever catch it.
I'm with Tim. I think that this needs to say, this matrix, this resolution, every year, whatever the COLA is, this matrix adjusts annually.
Without your approval every year?
Yes.
no,
Well, you'll have to
Get that
approve.
COLA.
I think it still should be
You will have
our
to adopt.
approval, because again, sometimes
We're fixing to.
they're,
Well,
that's
we're-
based on a national number, you know, sometimes like
On
some
our
of
list.
the conditions that,
Don't confuse that with our budget, though.
Right, no,
Don't confuse
exactly.
that with our budget process. The number, Social Security could say, for example, is 3%. We're saying, okay, adjust the matrix. Because part of what we've talked about over the years is we get behind
Catching up.
on water bills and trash and all those things. This is happening with this because it got adopted in 2017. We're about to hit 21 and it's never been changed. If we adjust it with COLA, it's kind of inching along so that we don't get to this point that goes, we gotta change this number here by $20,000. We're so far off, you know what I mean? We're inching along. At our budget though, I suppose in our budget, we could say, we approve a 1.5% COLA
Right.
this year.
Even if it's
Because
free.
to Tim's point, times are tough, we don't know what's gonna happen, we're doing a 1.5% COLA. This is adjusting separate from that.
Right, and that person may not be topped out anymore.
I mean, if you don't ever want to get somebody top out, which I'm 100% against, but then we need to do, make this thing float
Yeah, but
regardless.
you'll have to adopt it every year.
Well, that's fine.
Well, that way
I
you'll see
think
it.
we should still look at it every year and adopt it every year.
I think
I
we should.
mean, what's the difference if you say it's tied to a COLA, you're still looking at it every year, and it's gonna say that, you know, and like you said, I think it's something that we still look at, just like we look at the water bill, you know, the sanitation rates, you know, I think it's just a matter of simply saying, look at this and say, yeah, do we feel like, as a council, we need to go ahead and apply the COLA to it this year? Then do we do it, you know? But it's a matter of still just looking at it on an annual basis. We're still
I
looking
think
at
we
it.
should do that AC in the budget. I think we should do that every year in the budget. But this as a tool for the administration to use, it just keeps it live.
Well, as this is a tool for the administration, we can still look at it at, you know, come whatever they, you know, they did out the COLA, it's usually somewhere in the month of October, and saying, okay, that's time for us to look at this salary schedule, and, you know, do we need to keep it that way, or do we want to go ahead and apply the COLA to it? But I think it's still, because I think in some ways, if us just doing it automatically, then we kind of lose track of what the maximums are, you know, and like I said, I think there's some things that you say, hey, they're just gonna top out, you know, that we might need to say,
That's
that
not
they're
what
just
we're
gonna top
wanting
out.
here at City Hall.
Huh?
That's not what we're wanting, is people to top out.
But I mean,
But we may look at that, you know, and say, oh, yeah, this thing, you know.
People
is-
could top out. I mean, pick one, he's topped out, there's nowhere to go. If you get the COLA, if you did the COLA, like I'm saying, 3%, is that probably the biggest you ever get, right? 3% on a COLA.
I don't know. I mean, it just
3.6.
depends. I mean,
It was 3.6 in 2011.
It's
Since-
1.3.
Since then, you're talking about 1.7, 1.5, 1.7,
Average
0,
is
0.3, 2.0, 2.8,
Because
2.6.
I don't like the logic of, you're gonna top out, there's nothing better you can do. If Tommy Tincher said that in 1975, when he was sitting here on the council, then you're topped out at $8,500 a year. And that's just by God the way it is. You know, that don't make any sense. This, doing what I'm talking about, lets this move through time. Because, I mean, all of us, you know.
And it's not raised. It's just allowing you to make the same amount of money.
It's not saying everybody gets a raise. We still have the same directives to the department heads that.
No, I think you're still, you're implying that, you know, because again, it's just kind of like what we've said in the past, you know, well, once we set the minimum maximum, you know, somebody said, well, let's give everybody the maximum and just move on, you know, and I said, we have this minimum maximum to give the department heads, you know, that leeway. You know, they hire somebody new and say, okay, yeah, you're gonna start down here at the lower end, you know, and give you some incentive, you know, to give them, you know, based on their performance and stuff. But I still think that it's still something that, you know, if we're gonna apply a code to it every year, we need to look at it, you know, and say, these are the, you know, what we're saying the minimum and maximum ranges are to it. And if we're fine with that with every job description or every classification, then, hey, it's just a matter of saying, that's the code, and this is what it's gonna be. But we've looked at it, you know, every time, you know, like I said, in the month of October to do the plan.
You're just talking about revisiting this resolution, not during the budget time.
Well, yeah, during the budget time, you know.
We all agree on that. He's talking about just this resolution, the COLA aspect. This isn't saying everybody's getting a COLA raise every year, it's just
It's not
adjusting.
saying, yes, right, it's saying the ranges are. But I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, if you want to address it every
I
year,
think
you're
we
not
went
supposed
through
to do
the-
this every year.
I think we went through the pain of, give me all the numbers from everywhere, and I don't like your numbers, and I don't care what other cities do, and we went through all that, right, when we created this matrix. I don't see us, honestly, every year looking at this and going through that whole process again. You know, I think somebody's gonna go, the COLA this year is 1.8%, what do y'all think? And yeah, fine.
That's what we would do.
Put it on the rate, put it on the
Put it
rate.
before you and say.
Kind of like the, whatever that other stuff is we do every October. We
Yeah.
gotta do this. I think that's what's gonna happen with it.
Well, if that is,
Right.
that'll be it.
I would
Say
just
it
like to keep
too.
that. In the budget session though, I completely agree. That's a separate conversation.
I mean,
If
I
COLA
like-
was 3%, we may go, I don't care what COLA is. I'm
We're
not
gonna
one
use this
cent.
as a guideline,
Yeah.
you know, and
And otherwise, your guideline gets stale.
So the rate of years,
Well,
we
you're right.
don't raise the min max with the COLA.
Say again.
The rate of years, we don't raise the min max of the COLA on this resolution. Like, if we're having to review it every year, that means there might be sometimes we don't raise it.
right.
If you do what AC suggested.
And you fall behind.
I mean, if we have to look over, that means there's a chance we might not raise it.
Right.
Well, yeah, just, if you raise it every year, you just, I mean, you've got to pass the raises in the budget. So
Right.
if there's a problem with the economy, that's where you're gonna,
Yeah, the budget will.
that's just taken up so the person makes
I
the
agree.
same amount of money the year before.
Right.
It's not getting raised.
And I think we look at it then, and we'll say, okay,
What's
this
the
applies.
money, what are you gonna gauge that against to say, yes, we're gonna raise it, no, we're not?
So section 2 is what we're
Look at it
arguing
as
about.
as the national COLA, whatever that, you know, number is, but also not look at, you know, again, our area, you know, and say, well, you know, hey, even though the federal government says this is the COLA, you know, we're going to, you know, opt out of it for this year, you know, it still is our call.
I think you do that in your budget. You let that still be the standard, I guess. I don't know that that's the right word for that. You let that still be tool that we said, here you go, Mayor. And we said, if you give everybody the max, because we said this is the max, I think it's poor administration if you do that. But we're gonna create this and say, here's the minimum and maximum, and we're gonna stay out of your business as far as how you do it. You max them all out, I think you did a poor job. And you haven't done that.
But you're still, if you max them out, it still comes back to, we're still gonna make that decision, you know, as a council.
Well,
I mean,
we have to look at this every year in the budget with the advice of the financial director that says, you know, hey, what's going on in Greenwood, Arkansas is we're trailing behind. City, the sales tax numbers are not where they need to be. We don't need to, we gotta tighten the belt. We're not gonna buy new fire trucks. We're not buying a new police car. Everybody's not getting a new raise this year. I'm not comfortable with the number, you know. That's when I think we look at that every year in the budget and go, you know, maybe this did. Maybe the Social Security said, okay, it's 1.8%. Fine, the matrix went up 1.8%. That don't mean anybody gets a 1.8% raise unless we adopt it in that budget. And that's where we're gonna have that conversation with the financial department during that process. I mean, it's section 2 of this that says, you know, the salary range is adjusted, approved by the city council. I mean, I don't know what we're really honestly gonna do that says, well, I think they got 1.8% wrong. I think it's 1.5. I don't see us doing that every year, personally. Okay, we're gonna go with whatever the standard is. That's been the standard for many, many, many years of the COLA, you know. There's lots of smart people that figured that out. Okay, we'll go with that. That don't mean everybody's getting raised. It's gotta go through us. I think section 2, what I'm asking is, the salary range will be adjusted by the, whatever the appropriate words are to that.
Concurrent with the schedule of the.
Concurrent with the federal blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah,
Right.
whatever that needs to say,
Yeah.
you know. Is that a specific date every year?
When it comes
That
out,
the COLA is done,
comes out in the last quarter.
comes out the last quarter that. Well, I think section 2 needs, we're gonna take this number effective January 1, following its release, is when this would adjust.
Wait, maybe section 2 is, it's not anything to do with the salary ranges. Section 2 is just like saying, that's the budget process. To me, that's what section 2 is referring to. the budget
So this
process.
whole thing is the salary range.
Well, no, not section 2. Section 2 is saying that salary, range increases, well, it says salary range increases, yeah.
Well, that's still relevant to this resolution, which is the one that says we're adopting these salary ranges, which is the debate we all had to come to the conclusion of what they are. Now, what we're asking to change here is based on COLA, we're going to adjust the rate, these matrices, based on whatever COLA's percentage is that year. The question is, are we going to let it do that automatically based on what the COLA is? And then we will argue about that in the budget process, whether it's implemented or not. You know, you're still going to have, if this goes up 3%, Dawson is still going to have to stand up here with his budget and say, here's employee A, B, C, D, and I'm giving all these people this percentage. And we have to still say yes or no to that. It will not be higher than COLA. I mean, I guess we kind of agreed to that or whatever, but, you know, this guy's maxed out, I wanna give him a lump sum, we're gonna say, no. But we already agreed to not do that. This just lets I wish our water bill did it automatically. We're going up, whatever COLA is, we're adjusting our water rate accordingly. Because I saw us get so far behind on that, because no one wanted to politically be the guy that said, I'm raising water rates. Because our water got too many problems. And then we just got further and further and further behind. And so I don't want us to do that. I don't want us to look up 5 years from now, and this is so far behind that we gotta say, well, I'm gonna adjust this salary range from a $42,000 max to a $62,000 max. That's when everybody's gonna come out of the woodwork and say, y'all look crazy.
No, I think that's why we're having this discussion right now, you know, and so again, all we have to do is just, you know, wherever the say is, you know, when the COLA does come out in the fourth quarter, look at it and say, okay, you know, we're going to, that COLA is acceptable, and so then we're gonna make the resolution just like we're doing tonight, and say, apply it to all the salaries, you know, mid-maximums, you know.
But this resolution has been untouched, right? Since its first adoption.
The
Is that
matrix,
true?
the matrix
Yeah,
numbers
the
have not
matrix.
changed since 2017.
I mean, we haven't looked at this every year after we adopted it, you know what I'm saying?
Only with positions or whatever, but
Yeah,
not
maybe,
the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's kind of this document that sets off to the side, here you go, Mayor, this is your working document. We don't look at it every year.
So what is
We don't
missing?
look at it every year per se, but I mean, I guarantee you we'll start looking at it every year if we're gonna say, yeah, we need to apply COLA to it.
If you want that automatic COLA thing that you're suggesting, you would bring it back every December probably, and say, these are the numbers, either adopt it or don't, you know, concurrent with that social security rate. But you need to adopt it again, because otherwise, I mean, you have to have an official list to look at, that's approved by you guys. Even if you want it automatic, it's gonna have to.
Yeah, the number, yeah, we're gonna have to look at it because, you know, what we're doing by saying, okay, every year when it comes out, Tom,
Came out October 13th.
I'll adjust the number. I guess Tom, or HR director, somebody go adjust the thing, type up the new resolution and bring it to us.
And we're gonna be approving that.
It would most likely be at your November meeting.
Yeah.
And so, to me, we're going to be looking at it every year, and so why don't we just say that the document like that we have, you know, without saying that it's, you know, going to be granted across the board, you know, COLA, because then, yeah, we'll be looking at it, we'll just say, okay, yes, we want to apply the COLA to it, to that resolution, and be discussing just kind of like we're doing now.
So in other words, you don't want it to, you want it to be left alone until you look at it every time?
Right. Just look
That's
at
what
it
you're
every
saying?
year. That's right. We let it alone, and then we say, we want to apply a COLA to it, then, you know, we apply a COLA to it, you know? It's just easy enough like that.
Perfect. I
You
charge
are
7% behind at least right now, so what are we doing tonight?
I think we can't do anything tonight because we still have to look at the whole budget.
It'll be tomorrow before you'll be able to make a decision. What you're looking at now is the ability for them to adjust that schedule based on any COLA decision you make. Otherwise, the schedule stays the same and you issue your COLA.
And,
That's all,
yeah, there you
all
go.
this is doing is saying if you do give a COLA, adjust this document right here. That's all we're discussing tonight. We're not discussing a COLA.
Right, we're not discussing a COLA, but to me, it's still, it's, in some ways, it's 6 of one, half a dozen other, but I mean, if we're gonna say that we're going to adjust a COLA, you know, and have to come out with a resolution, might as well just, you know, look at it every year and stuff, because they're, instead of just kind of putting it in there, just kind of leave it, the document as is, and then we'll say, after we kind of review the whole budget and stuff like that, and say, yeah, we can handle a COLA in there, you know, and say, if it's COLA, then let's say, okay, we're gonna adjust the min maximum by that, you know, COLA as well. At that point in time.
I think everybody's saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'm saying it just didn't need to be in there,
Not everybody's saying
across the
something.
board. Do it kind of,
We're gonna raise the min max every year, what the COLA is.
if we approve it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not automatic like you're suggesting. So you're not all talking about the same thing.
Well, I suggested automatic earlier, but I don't mind going back and looking at it, because we're gonna approve it every year, more than likely,
Yeah. So it's gonna-
for the min max side.
There would be no action taken then if we're just gonna not do anything. And have
I mean,
us-
theoretically, if you did it automatically, we don't have to look at that. We don't have to look at.
Would it be
this
an ordinance then if it just,
No, it would be in a resolution, and you do have to look at it and prove it.
Yeah. I don't think
Have
it's
to.
something we need to.
right, that's what I'm saying, there's a resolution, we have to look at it, yeah.
Every year.
Yes, every time it changes. Absolutely.
I mean, but it's
It has to be
part of the budget
approved.
process, do you want to apply it or not, and stuff. I mean, it's not like there's a big, major, the hardest thing was just to set this table up. Now that it's here, it's relatively easy to say, we're gonna apply, the COLA to it.
I would always want to apply. I would always want to
No,
apply.
because it doesn't even say what y'all want.
What I would.
And I agree, if we say we're going to adopt the COLA, then I would always want to apply to the min max. But I mean, to me, it's something that we're going to have to be talking about every year.
Let's look at it really basic. If you guys approve a COLA, would you want this form to be adjusted by the COLA? If the answer yes, then adopt that resolution. That's all that's saying. It's not, we're not debating the COLA.
Right.
You're not saying you're giving a COLA. You're saying if and when
Right.
you give a COLA, adjust this schedule.
I think what I'm saying though, Tom, is if we don't approve a COLA,
Then this schedule stays the same.
I'm saying if we don't approve a COLA for a given year, this schedule can adjust by the amount of the federal COLA.
That is different than what this
That's right.
resolution is. So
That's
you would
what
need to
I'm
change that.
saying.
You're saying adjust this rate schedule by the annual rate of inflation every
Yes.
year.
Yeah, and it
That's not what
can't
this
be
says.
passed like it is. It says other things.
That's not what this says.
So
That's
now
where
you
I'm
have to
from.
debate whether you adjust this regardless of a COLA or only when you give a COLA. That's the only.
I'm saying adjust, my suggestion was adjust the matrix by the annual inflation rate. So that
Well, make a motion
10
then.
years from now, we're not.
I'd say that we're, just like saying the water bills and everything else needs to be looked at. I'm thinking salary, ranges are the same thing. They all need to be looked at on a frequent basis. So if we're going to say we're going to look at it once a year, then we'll make that and it will be done once a year, just like we are doing.
Well, it will be
everything
covered
else.
before you every year in that case, but automatically is what he's saying, and you can either approve it or not.
Yeah, and I don't think anything.
Whether we
I don't think-
approve
I don't
a
think
COLA
salaries
in the budget,
automatically.
totally separate
Well, even in
conversation.
this resolution, you'll have to approve or not, even if it's automatic.
Exactly, yes. We're gonna look at this resolution for the min max, and we're gonna look at everybody's budget, and we're gonna
Yep.
vote separately on those every year.
Yeah. I think we need to look at it every year.
I agree, it should adjust in the min max, whether people get raises or not, the city of Greenwood, look what Daniel's saying, but we still have to look at it every year. So I have no problem with that
I
either.
mean, if legally, we're gonna have to look at this resolution every year because it changes by a number, the matrix changes, then
Then you don't need to take the
my
action.
point is kind of moot because
Right.
it's automatically gonna change, but you have to approve it.
Right.
That's what ACE is.
Not necessarily. You might get people on here that don't want to approve the rest.
In a long way.
There may be a year we say, I don't care what the federal government's doing with COLA, we're not changing these min maxes.
That's true.
If everybody comes in here in a bad mood.
And that would be, leave this as it is.
Yes.
That would be, you have that.
Which is sort of what I'm trying to protect against, is
I agree.
if all of us aren't sitting here reasonable thinking numbers people, and you get a bunch of people that got an axe to grind that says, I'm against the city and ain't nobody getting a raise, you're all overpaid. I ain't giving it, we ain't adjusting this schedule. Could it happen? I don't know. You know, could. Somebody could come in here and say, I think you're all worth double.
I think the good news is, if it is, and I believe it is, and it is for me, I think from people that work here, is that you're considering at least looking at the COLA now on an annual basis to be a tool to help, not just to stay caught up, and that's what it is. It's cost of living allowance. It's not a raise. It's cost of living allowance to say that. And I use the stupid milk thing again. If the milk goes up 55 cents, now you can afford to buy the new 55-cent higher gallon of milk. So at least that's what I'm hearing, that you're considering it. Because as you said, you made very clear that if you don't at least consider it, then you have the option. You have the option to opt in and out of it every year, obviously, because that's what even this says this. But at least you're looking at that, because if you don't, you can find yourselves, not as a threat. We all know, I think, the 5 years or 6 years we didn't is how we got behind on some of these salaries.
Well, again, it hadn't been 5 or 6 years, 2017, that's just
The COLA, not the.
Okay, yeah.
It's been 5 or 6 since we got a COLA.
Okay.
The work behind.
But COLAs still are not raises, they're still, the
I just
city,
said that.
the employees have gotten raises during that time
I
period.
understand,
Okay.
but
So,
you can get a raise, and if you don't get a cost of living allowance to go with it, your raise didn't mean as much as it should have been.
no, but you still got a raise.
I didn't say you didn't.
Okay.
I said it doesn't mean as much. If you missed out on staying up with the times, with what things cost, and you got a raise, that's good. But you should have got a raise and catching up with what things cost.
Well, I don't think that's, no, I think the range, again, like he's talking about, should kind of go up, the min maximum. But I
Me too.
if a person gets a 5% raise, then, you know, they shouldn't automatically get, you know, necessarily want to do a COLA on top of that
No,
too.
the COLA is at the max.
There's a,
The COLA's at the top of that.
you can get raises.
He's arguing that he doesn't like COLAs.
I know
And
that. I know.
And so, you know, and I think that's, again, that's where, you know, the department heads come into play there, you know, and stuff. They're saying, yeah, I'm going to give you a raise. And so I think anybody would say, yeah, I'll make a 5% raise as opposed to a 1.6% COLA.
I'm not suggesting either or, I'm suggesting both in the case.
But that, as long as they live inside that matrix.
Right.
That's where we've said.
Right.
And that's
the administration. If you're this guy and you're 42,450, that's the max. You have no hope of a raise or anything until the COLA.
Right, until the COLA.
It kicked in at the end of the year, and whatever that is, 1% or 3% or 8%, you're stuck.
42.5 is not really 42.5 anymore, because the cost of living has gone up.
Right.
it also would be nice to visit it in November, because then people will know, you know, that you've adopted a COLA, and they can expect it come January or whatever.
But, you know, I mean, if the max is 42,450 and you're paid 42,450, all you're gonna get is the COLA.
Right.
If the max is 42,450 and you're paid 27, you can get a 5% pay raise and the COLA.
Right.
You're still inside the box.
If the council passes the budget that way.
Yeah.
If we do COLA.
I mean, the 5% pay raise might not get passed.
Well, true, right, yeah, all right, yeah, exactly. I mean, none of it, yeah.
That's what we're trying to get rid of is those days.
Yeah, it's all subject.
Well, you did by creating this document.
Yes.
And it said a while ago, and I appreciate the fact that you said it, but there were sometimes I feel like we don't, no one, except for the mistakes, have we gone out of this matrix. There's been a few mistakes that have been made, and no one gets hired at a maximum at Greenville City Hall. Just so you know.
I think it's
Well,
an
yes,
administrative.
no, you need to, yes, they do.
Do they?
Yes.
Do.
Well, I mean, like, you
No.
know, I wasn't at time.
No.
I think we're close enough.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I know.
I wasn't at the minimum, but I wasn't at the max either.
Not everybody gets hired at the minimum, but no one has been hired in at the max.
Now, you guys set a time that you research the whole scale again to see where you stand throughout the state, understand that too.
Well, that creates a whole nother, that's a whole nother,
Afraid to bring that up.
that's a whole nother thing. How do you, and you're right. and we-
How do you rebase
You,
this?
you gotta go back to the beginning of it, but you gotta decide, somebody's gotta decide what that's based on, because we've had this discussion too, and I get from one side of the room, and that's fine, that's why we have these meetings, is some agree that it's based on tax revenues to a city, and some agrees that it's based upon the population of the city. And neither one of those works perfectly, by the way. And so somehow you gotta find a middle ground to come up with that.
Salaries have definitely been the longest discussed topics here at the city.
Let me ask you a question for my
19
own
years.
knowledge.
You ought to hear outside of City Hall what that is discussed.
If we adopted this, theoretically, just from my understanding, if we adopted this matrix by ordinance, with language.
Ordinance,
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah, I don't know why you just
The
read.
ordinance would have to be published in the newspaper and all that, and 3 readings.
Well, what I'm getting at, there's no way you do that this don't have to be reviewed every year, right?
You're saying, if you're asking if it's an ordinance, you have to look at it.
Right.
Yeah, you need to adopt it, a new schedule every time, or those numbers can be manipulated. They've got to be set and approved by you guys. Numbers have to be, it's always.
The only way to do that, I think, is if you agree, and this is probably not good either, or not allowed, is if you as a council today or tomorrow, next month, or whatever, said, we now vote to accept whatever the COLA is, and we will accept it, and from now on.
Don't go with it.
That would be, I'm not asking you to do that.
But that'd be the only way around it.
That would be the only way around, yeah, and I guess you could do that.
You're saying that would have to apply to the budget and and the matrix?
The matrix, I'm only referring to it applying to this matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so therefore, not everybody, so this number and this number is a living number.
That's what I'll do.
That's my suggestion, that's my
But
very
if you're
suggestion.
good to say, if it's, but here's the,
I don't like that.
now here's the kicker. If for
Just-
1 year, it's a
That would be
6%,
messed with.
if
And
it's
somebody would
6%,
say, well, no, that's not.
But it's only the matrix, it's only the matrix.
it is
that's
only
getting adjusted.
That's right.
I don't mean anybody gets a pay raise.
Now,
I don't like that.
No, I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that sounds like the only way that you could do it and not mess with it.
Well, but Charlotte's saying that even if it's 1%, if the numbers change, the language of the resolution has changed, therefore we have to review it.
Now, you need those numbers set by you guys and approved. If you're gonna adopt that kind of stuff, then just say, raise it.
I just-
Out of sight, out of mind.
I think, you know.
Those numbers can be very argued and mistakes happen, and I don't need to get into that territory.
I think, you know, we just, like I said, need to review it once a year like we do, you know, everything else, like we're doing the budget, and just say, okay, yeah, we as a council want to.
It's not hard, that way,
COLA
check
to it.
figures.
And I think we just need to leave the resolution as it is until we vote to say, hey, we want to apply a COLA to it.
We need to move
No,
on to the
I say, you know, either,
Sorry.
you know, we already got a resolution out there, and we don't need to make this resolution.
Well, this resolution is saying, we're gonna apply COLA subject to council's approval every year.
Right. And so I think.
Which is what you're asking, which is what you're saying.
Yeah. So
I see no problem with this resolution in that regard.
Then I make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
We have a motion and second to adopt the resolution.
Mr.
I like-
Rankin?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Adopt this
You
resolution.
can pass later, whatever you're.
With the numbers is correct? Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Mayor, please vote.
That was simple.
You're still.
Number 9, adoption of the 2021 City Council meeting calendar.
Make a motion to adopt calendar.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt.
before anybody looks at it.
We'll adjust to this when you do.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes. I notice we're off on Senator McDaniel's birthday. How do you do with it? Thank you. Number 10 is adoption of temporary budgets.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
This is where it should go. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 11 is review of nonprofit contracts.
We're not gonna get off.
I think you got a new copy of the Boys and Girls Club one. I think here's what you had was 19. You gave everybody.
I gave everybody
Yes,
20.
20.
I voted for 10, it's supposed to be 12.
Sir,
One of them is a resolution amending, we ain't to 12 yet?
we are
We're at 11.
11 contract, nonprofit contracts.
Gotcha. Here we go.
The first one I have in front of me is the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Services Agreement.
Oh, gosh.
What do you say?
Change from 2019?
The economic service
There's
agreement.
a lot of 20, is this from, this
The
is
only
last
thing we
year?
will change on that is we will take that census line out.
I see a lot of 2020 on this, I guess this is just the contract from last year, the one we hit earlier.
You guys approved a 6 month.
Yeah, we did a 6 month.
I mean, I'm just, we're not looking to approve what's in my hand right now, because dates need to be changed, obviously.
Correct. You're discussing.
Review.
Okay.
So we can issue a new one beginning.
But your point, well taken, that the, where is that, Bob?
One of the line items, and I'm sorry, I did not bring you a copy, one of the line items of the census, and that
Okay.
obviously will phase out for this coming year.
Okay. Does anybody see that so we can,
The 1B talks about correct count committee for the census.
so that is the,
Yeah,
okay.
we're claiming victory on that.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. And for my 2 cents, if you want my 2 cents, this has worked very, very well with Chamber and this office for sure, of everything that,
We were in the right place at the right time a couple
Yeah.
of times this year.
yeah.
You want to pay particular attention to number 3.
Well, I was wondering,
Number what?
Compensation. Number 3.
well, I thought, thinking that, is this gonna be another 6-month gig, or this for all of 2021, or what's the
Well,
plan?
the reason that it was originally a 12-month contract, but because you didn't review it, and it didn't get presented, and COVID hit, that you decided to see how it would go just for the remainder of 2020. Now we're reviewing as to how you want to work the consideration. It says compensation for services. I use the term consideration, but
Yeah.
the consideration should be looked at. Do you want the $12,000? Do you want $6,000 a quarter? Do you want $24,000, which was the original contract for a year? That has to be changed if it's going to be on an annual basis, 24. And then do you want to keep the $6,000 as a pass-through from general fund to economic development to use for economic development purposes internally by the committee?
That's what the 6,000 is channeling through economic development that goes to.
Yeah, theoretically, the $6,000 doesn't need to be in this contract.
No, it's not.
It's something that's
It's actually
budget-
just
it's a
separate.
budgetary line item. I recommend removing
Because that goes
that.
to the city's committee that they choose to do things.
I'd like to change that language to what Tom just said.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, the whole-
in consideration for services, to say it that way.
Right.
So how are you saying that, as consideration for services to be provided?
Consideration for the services to be provided. Consideration is a nominal, it's
And
a
so-
dollar, it's a dollar.
And just say, so to pay the chamber 24,000, and just say period, omit the into 4 equal payments, whatever, you're just saying that's,
Yeah, it'd be
We know
quarter-
the
4 equal quarterly payments. We'll pay them quarterly, is that okay?
Yeah,
We can do it
that's
monthly.
clean.
You sure? You don't bill us, right?
We bid it.
You do? Because on a contract, we can just set you up to pay you automatically.
Okay, that's fine. That just, whichever is the easiest bookkeeping method.
so,
But, we'll initiate if y'all want to initiate, but
so as far as easy, So should we put that in the wording there, then say monthly, and, 24,000 to be paid out in monthly payments?
Yeah, we have other
So
comments.
number 3 is going to say,
Probably easier for us.
in consideration for the services to be provided by the chamber, the city agrees to pay to the chamber $24,000 in,
Monthly.
you want monthly?
Well, yeah, because we have other nonprofits that are set up that way.
In 12 monthly payments.
12
equal monthly payments.
Now, earlier you said something about not wanting this 6,000 to be in here.
Correct, that's an agreement between the general fund budget and the Economic Development Committee.
Well, the
That's
20
outside of the chamber.
Yeah, this only needs to reference the 24,000.
Right.
Yeah, so we're going to end in 12 equal monthly payments, period.
Yeah.
The amount of compensation may be renegotiated in
Amount of
subsequent renewals.
consideration.
Yeah, amount of consideration. Changes that to.
And there's language over here, 10, I guess, if Bob starts doing a horrible job, we can act the payments in section 10, don't they say?
Well,
there's an out.
I mean, just worst case scenario.
Should be.
I mean, back up to bullet, to item number 2, your term of the agreement will change January
Yeah.
1
Correct.
to 21. That was 6 months.
I'm still lost on the 6,000 pass through you're talking about. That's nothing to do with this 24,000?
No, nothing to do with it.
Where is that?
General fund,
That's a
you'll see
general.
it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a different.
It's in the budget.
You all
It's
have,
not in this document anywhere.
Correct.
No,
It's
no.
not controlled by the chamber in the city. Money does not go to the chamber.
you all have several times over the years funded the Economic Development Committee, and they've done projects. In our agreement, we are now trying to manage the committee's affairs for them, but they are still an independent committee of the city.
And you just said it, the date on January 2021 through December 31st, 2021, correct?
Yes.
What was your, you
I was just
asked
talking
about 10.
without,
Yeah,
I mean, just worst case.
yeah.
I mean, if he turns into like the James Fort water here, we won't be able to get out of it.
And so, I guess then the opening paragraph then should, say the 1st of January. Then I guess the other part there that I was thinking, just going along with what Tom's saying, then that 1, 2, 3, that 4th paragraph should say, for what purpose, is that, should say it's still compensating the chamber, or should we say for in consideration or whatever?
Well, we're reword all of them.
Prenup,
Okay.
prenup.
Yeah.
So we're pretty good with this document with those changes? Not voting to approve it, just reviewing it. And,
Correct.
okay. You good, Bob, got it?
Yeah. And we'll make those changes, and then probably at the January meeting, we've got a little time, we may have a little discussion and see if there's other input the council wants.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
not the
We got
lawyer in
some things
the
we want
room,
to present.
Tim, but I'm not the lawyer in the room, but I don't know that number 10 does what you said. If we get mad at Bob and say we're canceling it, I don't know that number 10.
Well, I thought there is one of those points that,
That's a severability if any of this is illegal or invalid.
Yeah, that's actually where that
That
is.
says if 8 or 9 is illegal, then you can strike that, but it doesn't invalidate the rest of the agreement.
But if we get mad at Bob and want to fire him, I don't know that 10 gives you the right to do it.
Usually you say, given a 30, 60, or 90-day notice.
I mean, I think if you're
But either
concerned
party.
about that, you need to put an out clause on it that says either party can terminate this agreement with 30 days notice.
well, I mean, it's not just Bob.
For any
Let's
reason.
say Bob gets an offer to move to St. Louis and be the mayor and make $800 million, he's gonna leave.
Yeah.
So we're hoping the chamber stays intact.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, it's, obviously you're talking to me, we're talking to the
Right.
the chamber that's obligated.
So we can adopt the language that, and that language that somebody has referenced about 30, either party has to deal with it. I think that's in our cards,
That's in
all of
the
them.
others.
So we'll just
Yeah,
put that in
that's
here too.
boilerplate, yeah.
Okay.
like I.
This is a well plagiarized
Yeah,
document.
I guess 13.
Right.
I mean, it's an annual document, so you're not gonna lose more than a year's worth.
Yeah, we're capable of 24 grand.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot more.
That's-
Assistant
that's
city
about
attorney
it.
wrote some of the other contracts, and it's all in there.
Okay, very good.
Contract termination.
Tell that person thank you when you say it.
I will.
Well, and then I noticed somewhere there a minute ago, I guess 12. City agrees the mayor has been authorized by resolution of council to execute this agreement. Is there another, what is that talking about? Are we gonna have another resolution that says you agree?
We have a resolution that allows the mayor to negotiate and enter into contracts on behalf of the city.
That's already there.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
it's referring,
It just refers to.
referencing what,
Says that he is the bona fide legal representative of the city in order to be able to sign this document.
Okay.
okay, good. Since Kenny's here, let's go to, boys and girls club.
I got a 2020,
That's the new one. You have a 19 that's signed.
Yeah.
I
We
gave
took
him
away
the
your-
20.
I got a 2020 that's signed.
Yeah, did you just get it and bring it to him?
No,
I
I
got a
But it's not
2020
signed.
that's not signed.
You have a
Well,
2020 that's signed.
2019.
The 19 is the one.
19 is signed, I didn't have 2020 in my
Yeah, that's
folder
just
of contracts.
2019.
I went and printed it.
I have the 2020 in my office, but I had it live here, so I sent it to her.
I have it right here in my hand.
Not signed.
Yeah.
Are you putting the two pages together, or the two different contracts?
Yeah, because I had a 2019.
Oh, this is SRCA.
There you go.
There you go.
Good grief.
Come on, man.
Y'all gonna have to
Someone
change your
needs to
name.
Definitely not
Jesse Raiders.
SSBGC.
If we just go with Boys Club,
We used to go with Psycho.
yeah.
Still is, isn't it?
No, yeah.
In many ways.
All right, sorry, I'm back on the same page.
Okay.
I see, everyone's fine with me for this one. You know, I guess just to kind of be consistent, you know, we talk about 30-day, 90-day, I'd say that, you know, put 90-day on the chamber one or whatever.
Number 2 on the contract termination.
Because, yeah, on this one, we have 90 days. So on the chamber one,
Well, you have to look at the downside of what services you're gonna interrupt in a 90-day for him versus a 90-day for the boys club, which has tournaments and things going on that we're supporting with that money. It would be more detrimental to him to lower it to a 30 or a 60 boys club than it would be for the chamber if he ups and leaves and all services drop. Why would you pay him for 90 more days under contract? Look at what the contract's going to provide to you and the period of time for harm or recovery. So in this case, I don't think you're apples to apples.
I say, okay.
This says you got contract with the terminated by either party. You said 30 on chamber, right?
The 30 on chamber.
We'll add something. I mean, it'll be a
Somebody's
meaningful.
got a stroke in there, I'm not sure.
We haven't put it in there yet. We'll put a notice of termination or cancellation.
Can we make that 55,000?
There's a
There's a
request.
request. You want to make
Would
it?
you like to address the council, Mr.
You want to
Snyder?
address the council?
Would I?
Might as well.
Okay. Do it. We requested an increase this year up to about $24,000 more. We haven't had an increase in the since we started this contract, probably about 12 years. You know, you talked about COLA earlier, going up and everything. Prices for us has also gone up. And at this time, I mean, we're taking a beating this year. We're not the only one crying. There's a lot of people. We have not reduced one scholarship. We have not reduced one service. We actually have plans to help kids when they were out on Thanksgiving. We made plans and sent some of our workers out. There's repairs that need to be done. Our board has been putting money in. This year, they were putting 25,000 into repairs. We did the roofs before, but unfortunately, that money ended up having to go where we had to do some stuff with the classrooms, buy some stuff where we could open for our after school and do repairs inside. Next year, the baseball fields, things are going up. You hear about the applying for the grant. They couldn't qualify for the grant because free or reduced lunch. You can't get this grant because your school rating, your crime rating, your minority rating, everything that goes into it is great for this community, but it's bad for us to try to go out and get grant money. The federal government is giving less money to the Boys and Girls Club. 17 years when I first got here, we were getting $50,000 from the Boys and Girls Club. We got $7,500 this year. With United Way, we were getting good money. 08 hit, people going out of business, trains hitting, no fault of anybody's, but there's less people paying in money. And now, this year, we're scared to death. We won't find out what we get from United Way. I'm not sure where they are in their campaign, but I pretty much can guess with people not going to work and being laid off and not giving their contribution. So we're asking for some help. We started the campaign, we're on Thursday night. If you're on Facebook, I'm not, but we have one, so I get to watch it there. But Jay Burgess is going to do a little 30-minute concert for us. And we're going to get on there, and we're trying to raise money. You see what on our report, giving turkeys, giving toys to needy kids. We're going to do it. We're just asking for some help. And next year, we're going to definitely need it.
Kenny, what is your total budget? What was your total budget last year?
Our total budget runs right about 250, 260. This year, our budget's going to end up being probably about 220 with monies and the cuts that we've had. So it's probably about 220, and we're still down. We did pass.
220 is your projected revenue.
I believe so. I can bring that tomorrow night for you and everything. To break it down, this year we got 51 from y'all. We got 24 from United Way. We're getting 75 from the Boys and Girls Club. Everything else is dues, throwing tournaments, and begging people for donations. And I think, and again, I appreciate everything y'all do for us. I think we offer Greenwood a bargain, because to run in a complex and everything, insurance, utilities, everything, we just need help.
So we really can't plug that number though until we have this budget meeting tomorrow.
No, I think it was important for him, and Kenny knew that was going to be coming out tomorrow night at the study session, but I thought it was, since it was suggested that we would talk about a number, I thought it might be good for you to hear what he's thinking, and you can obviously
His
consider.
number is in the budget, so you'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah, you got his request in there to see what,
And I'll bring my financials tomorrow, and that way we can be exactly.
I've got a little letter here, but I don't see the request in here.
he just did a verbal to us.
Oh,
He came to me.
I thought he
Yeah, I came.
Yeah.
Yeah, that what I gave you was, just our monthly report, yes. And I tell you, like basketball this year, unbelievable. I mean, between basketball and cheerleading, 400 families out there.
Hey, let me ask this question, Tom, for Kenny, if it exists, because I feel like I'm living some of it up there for sure, but what agreement other than this, I know this is contractor services, don't we have another agreement with you, with the club, as far as property?
No.
Okay.
At one
We
time,
talked about it, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
is it one time we did or we talked about it?
We talked about like 100-year lease at $1.
Yeah, and that was on, and I know that came up during the whole thought process of everybody that was
Right.
in this chair, well, the last 3 or 4 anyway.
Right.
Minus one for sure, for sure, that had a thought of doing something with you and providing you with service. We're actually building another complex and moving you guys, yada, yada, yada. But we don't have anything in place to help you physically, other than financing, correct? I'm already looking around to see, to make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Did we do mowing at one time?
Did we what?
We didn't do mowing.
No.
That's been discussed.
It has been discussed over time on different occasions and different ways.
And this year, we hired it out for 3-4 months, and then me and my boys volunteered, and we ended up just trying to cut back. And I tell you another reason we want some of that money too, is for the improvements, because I think I told y'all, the 9th grade baseball team and the JV baseball team were gonna come and use field 6. We took the sod off field 3 and moved it over there, and we still have to add board sod and do some work on there. But now in field 3, now it allows the high school softball team to now come over there, and they're gonna do practices and maybe play some of their games, because it's the perfect size field for them. So we have that ready.
Is that gonna provide you some funding for them to do that? From the school?
We're not from the school, but when they come out there and be able to throw some games and tournaments, we'll get concessions. I'm not sure if we're allowed to get gate, because I'm not sure the AAA rules on that.
I wouldn't think you'd be able to get gate.
Yeah, 'cause
Schools
that's-
wouldn't get any kind of gate.
Right. But we could still get concession. They're gonna work on the fields because they're gonna
You can charge
play
for
more.
parking.
For parking?
You can charge for parking.
If you host a tournament, there is a potential to get a percentage of the gate, but you're
For
gonna
the
have to
high
work that out
school?
in your bid process with AAA.
Yeah, okay. Well, they're gonna come out, they're gonna work on it, they'll be able to come out there, and it's gonna be great for the Greenwood kids, because when they come out there to practice, they can walk over the fence and watch 9th and 10th grade. Right now, the 9th and 10th grade for the boys, when it's time for the season to start, the coach is concentrating on the high school, the varsity team. So they get to go hit in the cage. There's no place for them to practice. Coach Saki told me with the softball program, now he's going to be able to keep an extra 10, 12 girls, because now they got a place to practice, and they didn't before. So, we try to help out any community, anybody in the community, give them a place and offer it to them. And they're going to work on our field, so that's going to be big for us.
Well, and in turn, that is kind of, you asked about financial, that you don't have to pay somebody else to do some of that.
Exactly.
And it's great PR, and it's good for you.
I know as far as like the state tournament goes, we held the state tournament up here, softball and baseball in 2017 or something like that. And we only had one baseball, one softball field, and it was kind of a logistic nightmare. With this going on, we could have games going in 2 places, and it would be easier to get the state tournaments in here, which that is huge for taxes.
Yes. And they are
If we had a hotel, it'd be bigger.
Yeah, with the hotel and sewer, I don't care what.
Right.
Just to remind you, his funds come from pre-distribution of the county sales tax. So if you were to give any kind of an increase, it comes off the top before distribution to any of the other departments. So you'll see that tomorrow.
Well, I like the idea of, using the the schools, to let them, have fields and stuff. I was wondering if that's something that, that, you are providing a service for the schools and allowing them to have, expanded, programs and stuff, that while they're going to be doing, kind of some field maintenance or whatever, I mean, still could, say about them.
And we work, and they'll help us out.
Consideration for services.
We work hand in hand with the schools. If it's sports, if we need HB Stewart Arena to play a basketball game, in normal times, we used to have championship games there and everything. They do that. They bring the kids over to us for after school. If we have problems with, we can get to the counselors. So they have been very good to us. And it feels real good to be able to pay back to them too. And hopefully the money, from both sides. Because Coach Saki now, or Chad, right? the baseball coach? Chad, he could throw a baseball tournament and use his field, and also then come over there and use ours too. So that will generate, hopefully, their booster club some money and ours. So we're excited about it.
Thank you, Kenny. Guys, any other questions for him or just regarding the contract itself? Well, tomorrow night's gonna see.
And we do very much appreciate everything y'all done for us.
Thank you, Kenny. And you're still doing metal for how many years?
Do what?
You're still do that metal work, remember, we're.
Oh, one other thing. Thank you for letting me miss basketball out there tonight. I do appreciate it.
You didn't get called, did you? Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, so we got, now, SRCA. I'm with it. We did not get a request of any increase from it, these folks, correct? Tom and or Danielle?
I'm sorry.
We didn't get we have not received a request of an increase of funds for the SRCA.
No, they did not say anything.
Okay.
They said they weren't requesting any
Right,
changes.
okay.
The only thing I wanted to point out
Yeah,
is,
utilities.
I want to point out consideration on number 3. We have the city agrees to reimburse for the cost of utilities up to but not exceeding a total of $14,500. That was based on old historical. They capped out in October, so November and December's utilities are not paid because they're capped. If you wanted to adjust that, you would be looking at an average of $20,400. That would be what the average would be for the 12 months. Now, I do want to point out, though, that we also have a routine repair and maintenance, the building up to and not to exceed 10,000. You actually only spent 2, but realize too that they were closed down for quite some time. I don't know if it would be better if you were to consider it, maybe in the language, to not do a limitation on each separate and individual, but to combine them and say utilities and repair and maintenance on building not to exceed 25,000, and let them, if they're over on one, they can make it up on the underage on the other, and as long as they don't exceed the total for both combined. Totally up to you. You can leave them separate and just adjust one, or you can, if they're not asking for it, you can leave it as it is and just negotiate another contract. I can tell you, I believe they will cap out on their utilities again next year.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that we didn't get that request or
Me
not.
too.
They, looking at Danielle, but it probably wouldn't be Danielle to know, so the last, they topped out we kind of came upon this accidentally, but they topped in October, so they would have already been having to pay their November and December payment utilities, correct, on their own. I think I had a very short conversation with Lisa about that up at a meeting in Fort Smith one day, that she just kind of recognized that, and she went, it is what it is. So, of course, it wouldn't have been her to ask for an increase anyway. It would have been, I keep calling her Denise, it's not Deanna.
And she could have very easily become.
Yeah, so I don't know if they just didn't hit the radar yet, or I hope they have their utilities on over there.
I like the idea of just
combining
one figure, and it gives them more leeway.
One way or the other.
Yeah, one number, pay your bills, do whatever you gotta do, fix your building.
No consideration in the I'm not asking on the rehab, but you want to leave the number the same and combine it, or you want to consider?
So, this maintenance thing, that all went away from the lease agreement, right? There's nothing in that about us.
Covering all costs of repairing the building.
That's all gone away.
What's your lease? Do you have the lease?
I don't have it with me.
I think they're
Can you
good.
get it?
I don't think I ever saw the actual final, what you signed lease.
Well, whatever we sent back to them is what he signed.
Okay, well, our goal was to remove language that specifically talked about the SRCA services, which they really had no business of having to deal with. They did put a restricted purpose in the lease, saying that you could only use that building for a senior center, which means that when they're not using it as a senior center, we can't go in there, even though we lease the building from them, and do anything we want, like hold bingo for whatever. It has to be used specific and solely for the senior center services. They can put that in their contract, but for them to say, you have to provide X amount of meals on meals, well, that's for us to negotiate with the company that's doing the senior center. That's what this contract for services is for. So it was removed from their lease, and only the lease portion of the building was addressed. Now theoretically, because they're leasing it to you for $1 a year, it's rent-free. They do have some consideration that they're looking for repairing or keeping the building in a state of repair, because we're the ones occupying it.
Well, and what I'm curious about on that is if we have in this lease agreement, this routine repair and maintenance of the building seems like sort of lives in that lease agreement, not in this contract for services.
I would like it in the lease agreement, but I don't know if they would allow us to cap it.
Well, that was one of the discussions.
Because if they need
in
to
this
be
lease
moved-
agreement, we're gonna have some cap of what we're gonna pay maintenance. We don't want, when you buy a new roof.
Yeah, I'd like to take you to the negotiations. They're a little bit hard on that. If you want them to be responsible for the state of repair on their building, which they own, then they're gonna charge you a lease. And that lease is not gonna be us, it's gonna, well, it could be us. But it could also be passed on to the SRCA. And they can't afford it, because that lease would be phenomenal. So we're trying to make it to say, we'll cover, without going to you, any routine maintenance, but if you need a new roof, we're gonna come to you and talk to you about that. Now, the goal is to keep it in a good state of repair right now, until such time as we find an alternative building.
Right.
Okay, and once you build that and move out of that, that's why you only did a 3-year contract with them. So that we can look for, that's what that, those 3 resolutions were for, so that we could get some kind of a grant funding to build a senior center somewhere that the city owns, rather than leasing a building. And even hearing it from Desiree or Lisa or whatever her name is, Denise.
Deanna.
Deanna, no, of course.
I like that.
I'm mayoral material now.
There you go.
I got that.
So I don't see anything in this lease agreement that's talking about repairs and maintenance.
Well, because we took it out
That's what,
altogether,
At all.
and the other one. Who's requesting the services, the repair services that we provide to them is the SRC, is the senior center people, not Farmers Bank. They don't know what's going on with that. And they know, senior center knows to come to us based on this contract, and we will help them. Their alternative is, they're responsible, the senior center is, and they could do it themselves. They could also contract out, and we could help them in that respect too.
Hey, hold it, I take that back. Number 3, Greenwood agrees to pay farmers for a sum of $1 per year. In addition, pay for routine maintenance needed to keep property in good condition.
Right, now. If we
Is
didn't-
good condition, it says.
If we didn't put that into the contract for services, they could go amok on what that would be. We're not saying we won't pay in addition to the 14.5 cap. We're saying that if you hit that, you need to come back to the city council and ask for more. And explain why. Otherwise, what they've been doing is just submitting us a bill and we pay it. Because it's routine and it meets that 10,000.
But because we have says we will do these routine repairs and maintenance in the lease agreement, we need to account for it over here.
We've got to have $1 million insurance policy on it.
Pardon?
We are carrying $500,000 liability.
You were carrying a million, thank you.
I'm just saying, we're carrying insurance on the building.
So that's another expense that we're.
Or the personal property, we have to pay the personal property tax, too,
Yeah, is that we pay the personal property.
Yeah.
That's what it says here.
Yeah.
What I'm working into here though, is I'm not sure you want to have one number that says, y'all go provide whatever services you provide and take care of the maintenance on the building with this number, this one number. Because they could say, I provided all those services and the shutters fell off and they need to be replaced and I don't have any money for that. This kind of having a separate number for us that says to them, I'm going to give you this to provide services and I'm going to hold this allowance over here in our budget for some routine maintenance, not to exceed 10,000.
Well, I don't think,
I'm not so
I
sure
think what he
that
said
should
was
be
the 24,000 was for the services. He's saying lump the utilities and routine maintenance into one lump number.
And leave.
The 24,000 is separate. I'm saying lump the 14.5 and the 10 together. And so if you don't use one, it can be used to cover the other. Right now, we've got a governor on both. But the language that could be added there to ease your mind would be that that's their budget, and anything in excess of that would need to be submitted or presented to the city council for approval.
But
Well, I suppose the language of, we could have one number, $48,000 for services, whatever the heck that other one, utilities and maintenance. You got one number, and these are all the things you're going to be responsible for with that number.
And hope they don't spend 47 grand on a roof and have 1,000.
And then not do any services. No, I would want the services separate. And the reason for that is that technically it's our building. The lease isn't with SRCA. The lease is with the city of Greenwood. We technically own that building. We release the building.
But the utilities,
We don't go over there and make sure they turn lights off every night. We're trying to hold them to be responsible. Otherwise, it's like, hey, light it up as day. City's paying for it.
well, what my thought was, you put services and utilities together and leave maintenance separate. Because really, the utilities aren't part of our lease. It's part of what they're responsible.
It was.
In other words.
No, it was. We took that language out.
Right.
It said all operating costs.
Right.
In the
But
lease.
now it's not.
Because I took it out.
Right.
But I wanted them, what we routinely were paying for were three things. Those are still in there. Repairs and maintenance, utilities, and services. Now the services, they're gonna do, and they could ask for more based on how it costs them to do the Meals on Wheels or whatever else they do. They give you a report on their services every month. But we wanted to put some accountability and don't just run amok over there, operate it prudently. The only thing that's not in here that I think would give them some relief, if you will, would be language that says, if you hit that mark, now you have to come back to us and ask for more and explain why.
But they write the check for the electric bill.
Sure.
Right? So then, therefore, that's their responsibility.
Yes, but that's not services to the seniors. That's just to operate the building which we lease. It's no different than the fire department leasing to.
But like Kenny's deal, $51,000 for what you do out there.
Services.
Their board could use $10,000 of it.
Read the contract.
It's got some specific.
It's specifically languaged in there for, only for youth activity programs, period. It's not to pay their operating whatever, and if they're doing that, then he has to, that's why we want their audited statements. It says you cannot commingle our funds with any other funds that they receive. They have to have a separate and complete accounting for what they spend our money on, and it has to meet the terms
So
of
that
that agreement.
220 budget, whatever.
Yeah, he can bring you all that.
He should have a 51,000 separate.
Exactly.
budget.
And we're gonna talk about that, and it only asks him to do it one time. He has to bring it at least annually, the audited financials. And so this will be the first year I'm gonna get to see that and make sure he's in agreement with that term. And if he's not, then we're gonna have a discussion with you guys as to whether or not you wanna hold him to the fire on that. Because he can't do what you just said.
So isn't that something we should see before we
Yes.
consider
Yes.
up in his?
Well, I was gonna ask if we had seen the audited financials.
Well, I guess the other, I guess.
Did we get that from SRCA?
With the, yeah, do we see that with SRCA? Audited financials? or-
Because I would like to do with SRCA what you just said.
I think we need to be consistent across the board.
Yes, exactly.
Well, this was a mess
Yeah.
from the lease perspective.
Right.
We had to break out of that. Otherwise, we were on the hook for anything on that building. Anything.
And we kind of broke away from that, so I think this is our opportunity here to
Further that.
I mean, and if we did that, you know, if we said, I'm gonna give you X for, you could put one lump number that says for services, utilities, and maintenance. And you have to provide me audited financials that says, shows us where you spent this money.
Well,
in those categories.
theoretically, in those, the caps, they're not to exceeds, they submit their bills to us. We have copies of everything we're reimbursing them for, because they get reimbursed for that. So they do have to, in a monthly basis, they have to show us and prove to us with the invoice. They can't just say,
On the maintenance
hey, I paid,
And-
well, I am the
and
utilities.
utilities.
They submit the utility bill to us.
They gotta pay me first.
They pay them, then submit them to us, we reimburse them up to that amount of money. And the last one that came in October, we reduced down to the 14.5 because that's the cap. But they have an opportunity to come to us and say, we need more. Now, they didn't do that. Now, it's not up to us to go beg them to do that, but, I mean, I'm just trying to give them.
I suppose if doing it that way, maybe that's better. If they have to submit it to you and ask for reimbursement, that kind of holds them
That's what they do.
accountable. Versus us saying,
I think they're being more accountable now than they ever were, because at one time, like I said, we were paying, I mean, for all sorts of repairs, whatever. Yes, that's right.
Let me say this too, for a long time, we didn't pay their utilities though, although our contract said.
Contract said you would.
They never brought them to us to pay.
But we were paying a lot of other things besides just what we showed, 24,000, thinking, oh, that's all we're really paying, but we were compensating them in a lot of other ways.
Oh, absolutely, the street department over there, I mean, yeah, we won't go into all that, absolutely. And let me, to reference what you did say a while ago, and I'm not suggesting this be changed at all, but I want us to know that the provision of services for Boys and Girls Club is to provide, the city wishes to contract with Boys and Girls Club to provide financial support, blah, 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 blah. In exchange for this compensation, the Boys and Girls Club agrees to use the funds for the purpose of providing recreational youth activities, thus promoting civic pride, good character, and citizenship amount the city's youth who participate in it. It's not specific at all what the club does with that. I mean, it is to do what they're supposed to be doing with these kids. I mean, I'm not suggesting that's a change. I just wanted you to know that it doesn't say they pay the electric bill, they build dugouts, or they mow the lawn.
so in theoretically, they could lump our 51,000 right in with everything else
I think so.
and pay Kenny $51,000 and say, there you go.
I was thinking that was something else in there, Tom. but-
See, number 6, that it will not mingle city funds with funds obtained from other sources and shall document the expenditures of all city funds in a manner consistent with generally accepted accounting principles and provide the same to the city upon request.
Okay. No mingling of funds. it's
No
not-
mingling of funds
No
that
specific.
we provide them with any other, and it should say.
But to me, the sticky wicket here though is that we don't own kind of the property out there. I mean, in some ways, we are the leasee of the senior citizen building. And so it really does kind of behoove us to, you know, have insurance and to kind of maintain it in reasonable repair.
Yeah, the recourse, even though we don't own the asset, which was the issue that the auditors had, was that you don't own the asset, but here you are putting a new roof on something you don't own, it's not city property. Well, the issue there is that if we said, hey, Farmers Bank, it's yours, and when we leave, we're gonna put that in a better state of repair than we found it, their response to that would be, well, if you expect us to do all these repairs, then we're gonna have to recoup that somehow, and we're gonna charge you rent. So what do you want, free rent, or do you want us to charge a reasonable fair market value rent, and you pay that, city of Greenwood? And what's the lesser of two evils here?
It's the process of looking for another.
Correct.
So-
We've had talks with them.
Relative back to the SRCA, we have Exhibit A that describes what you're going to do with the $24,000.
No, they're getting 24,000, they're
Exhibit
also
A.
getting 14,500 and 10,000. So they're really getting
Right.
kind of a potential of
What Exhibit A does exactly what he said.
Right.
It describes what
Exhibit
they're
A.
gonna do with the
It
24,000.
ties to point number 1, provision of services.
Oh, okay.
As set forth in Exhibit A, there's Exhibit A that says, here's what I'm gonna do with it.
Right.
And they've been fine with that. I don't even think they used it all.
Oh, yes.
Did they at one point?
Have they used the 24,000?
Yeah.
We
We
just
just
pay it
pay
all to them because it's contractual, we're contractually
Yeah.
obligated. There's no, they don't have to submit anything.
They show us
That's
the
not a
bills
big
and everything, you know, that usually they're showing us that they're running at a deficit to what the services that they're, you know, billing us for. And she does that monthly.
Well, they've got this monthly thing with all those numbers. So there's November's numbers. Total provided by city, $1,250
That's right, per month.
per month. The difference. So their total was 4561, 1,250 is what we provided. So they're running now.
Yeah, they're definitely spending more money than what we're giving them.
Right.
I've been to these board meetings.
Okay, so because you have bullet point 1 with provision of services, then you have Exhibit A that says what that is. You leave, you got a number, whether it's 24 or we change the number.
For the services part.
For the services, and then you've got utilities. And Tom, you said what, they spent 2,000 of the 10 on the maintenance. So do we wiggle with that number?
And that's what I think Tom's saying is that we combine those two bottom numbers, the 14.5 and the 10, that gives them just a little bit more wiggle room in case they have another year like this year. That they
And we can say $20,000, for example, for utilities and maintenance, 24,000 for the contract.
Well,
Let's
24,500 is what you're giving them now.
Till you see the budget tomorrow, but
Right.
what I just wanted to know is
Well,
whether
they'll
you want
use
to
two.
consider combining the two and then putting language in there that gives them the ability to come before you, should they hit that, if not to exceed, and have you approve any amounts over that amount.
There's not already language saying that?
Not in there, not in this agreement.
Well,
But y'all said they should have been coming to us this year, but they just haven't.
I was surprised that they didn't come to us and say, hey, we ran short 2 months of our utilities.
We would have just said so, it's not our deal, but
We just stopped. Well, they did
We
bring,
put
say,
in
again, they bring us their bills and we are reimbursed. We've
Now,
certainly,
item 4 kind of says,
I mean, but this year, this is for next year, right?
Well, now, this year, number 4 says that, for the safety and benefit of the city's senior citizens, they must be presented to the city council for consideration on an individual case-by-case basis. And those are capital expenditures, capital requirements such as a new heating unit or a new freezer or something that they need. They have to come to you and present it special and separate.
Well, y'all were talking about they ran out of utilities, haven't been paid since October or something, just a while ago.
Well, we haven't reimbursed
They pay
them.
them, we haven't
They-
reimbursed them.
Yeah, because it's reimbursement. They just, and they didn't come to us as they obviously recognized.
Why haven't we reimbursed them? Because it's over the 14.5?
Correct.
Correct.
It's capped,
So
But
we
if you
don't have
combine-
to reimburse them?
not according to the contract.
Right.
Right.
No, and if you combine those numbers, as AC said, I think, and everybody, or whoever else said, that then allows them to pay all the utilities and only have 6,000.
Utilities and routine repairs and maintenance is an operating cost that they assume whenever they provide that service in there. And they have other revenue streams than us.
Yeah.
So we're not their only sole support. So they're a little different in the way they're managed.
And I'm for combining those two, you know, and still keep it just say, but up to, but not exceeding 24.5, you know, for utilities and.
Well,
Just call it
tomorrow we'll set that dollar amount if you don't.
And I'm assuming
Tomorrow we'll set that dollar
nobody in here
amount.
to answer this, probably. Water, and yeah, you were up there for a while, so, do we pay their water bill?
That's part of the utility.
Yeah, that's
No,
part of-
I'm just making sure we, I'm just making, because we're there for a while, we weren't paying them. We should get a bill from them that they paid it. We should be able to.
Okay, so we're good with this,
Yeah.
pending numbers tomorrow.
But can you also provide us how much the liability and insurance cost is? Just so we
Yeah.
know that too, Mark?
Yeah, it's about $4,200 a year.
$4,200 a year. Another almost
That's the bill.
$400 a month.
Is that the same place as our other insurance lady that's on our one thing?
And is there a thing that we do pay property tax, or is that just something
It's
that's,
in there.
I mean, do we pay it, or is that something that's just saying, oh, they're,
Supposed to.
Do we pay,
Real estate.
it says personal and property tax, do you pay
No.
property taxes?
No, we're exempt from them as a city, but we don't pay other people's.
It says in here, we do.
No, we haven't.
So I'm saying, so we're not paying that, so that's the expense we're not paying.
No, and I don't know why it says that.
well, that was a lease.
It's part of the
Says
list.
that.
No, we didn't pay them.
They're not bringing it to, they're not bringing it to us to pay.
Okay, well, that's
Evidently.
good. I just,
I don't think we should.
I know it, because, yeah, if we were.
Well, I
good
don't
to see.
I don't think they would disagree, but that's what the contract is.
No, I mean, that's expired.
That's one of the things.
We agree to pay the taxes we're exempt from, that's beautiful.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I love it.
There you go.
We're
We're
That's
exempt.
a good
I want that
Sounds
person
good.
negotiating with James Ford.
Yeah, virtually.
Sounds good.
All right. Number 12, budget to amend budget. Resolution to amend budget for police retirement pay. Chief or?
Well, we had a police officer retire. There is a considerable amount of payouts when somebody retires. That's an unbudgeted or unplanned event. And it is rather material as far as the dollar amounts because the sick time, the vacation, the holiday or whatever, it all lumps in together and it's paid out one time. The breakout, I don't have it from here, I do now. Breakout is listed in section 1, and what we're doing is we're revising the, well, it's able to be, there's sufficient funds in the general fund checking, but it's an unbudgeted item, it's greater than $5,000, that's why it's in front of you guys, because it's payout, and has to be done based on the retirement.
One of these numbers, I guess it's probably the vacation hours. Is that the one we have legislation in the city to cap that number?
Vacation or sick? Which one is it?
Sick, well,
So
that's
cap.
by law, everything's sick, and
I thought as a city, we passed something once and we had to pay.
It's listed in the second whereas. It's city ordinance number 13.
Yes.
14.
I was just wondering which one we put a cap on.
It's sick.
Yeah.
Sick, I think it was, yeah, 520 or something like that.
Seven.
There's a
780 or something like that?
780,
that's by
yeah,
law.
something like that, yeah, it's by law. All all these
So
numbers
those
are laid
are
out
within our
according to
cap.
the law.
When you say by law, you're talking about by some state law or a city law?
State law.
Okay,
And you
then
know
there's
that.
some ordinance that we passed, I'm assuming it went along with state law, or do we need to get rid of our ordinance?
Are you talking about a carryover?
State law says that we had to pass it if we wanted to have it.
I just remember the old boy that lived in Alamo, and he left, and he cut us with a big old chunk of time. We cut him a big old check, or did it him or the last chief or somebody. And I thought we'd that, and it may be this,
Well, he didn't actually retire, that was an illegal transaction because he didn't officially retire, just like the Jackson.
yes. But I thought, I don't know what this ordinance 1314 says for us, or city resolution. Where I'm going with all this is, I want to make sure that whatever where our cap numbers is
It is.
Those numbers are
I
the
even
legal
asked for
numbers.
the hours from the
We're just
financial
asking you to
assistant
approve it.
to make sure that the hours were within that cap.
yeah.
I did verify that. And that's why I put it in there too, to point to that, you know.
I should make sure
Connect it with that.
Thank you. That was it.
Yes,
I'll make a motion we adopt the resolution.
Second. A motion second to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Tim Terry,
I guess. Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Number 13.
No, Chief.
No.
Make a motion, which, oh, wait,
We've, over Station 2 in the budget this year, we have a generator, and actually we're pushing it into next year's budget, we're letting it carry over. But we would like to have the same people that service our generator currently, and have been taking care of it ever since we installed it, to take care of this one, and so that's why we're asking the bidding for the generator Station 2 and for its service.
How much is it?
Let's see, it's gonna be about, well, the total project, because they're going to put in quite a bit of stuff.
Just give us the
I
number.
think it's about 65,000.
So that's just carry over, though, right?
Yeah, it's in this, there's 55 in this year's budget, but it's going up about 10,000. So that's on next year's budget. The reason being is they're having to actually tear out the little 4x4 concrete pad and put in a bigger pad for the generator. It's like the one sitting over here at the station. When you walk out, you'll see it. It's quite a bit bigger. And then it took an automatic connection. And when they built the station, they put a manual. So if the lights go out, we'd actually have to go out there, try to get in the building and turn on the generator. So, on the current system.
You got an ordinance for this?
You mean a resolution?
I thought by law we had to get bids, though, if it's over, what, 20,000?
But we can
You
wait.
can waive it in certain instances.
Yeah.
But you have to name why you're waiving it.
Yeah. That's,
Oh, that's what I guess that's my question, what reasons do we have?
Should be,
They're there.
because it's.
I mean, what do we authorize, what are the,
There's not like a list of reasons, because everything's different. Just needs to be.
this would have,
We don't-
this would
no
have
one
to do
has
with this, the one with the,
Really?
I've been looking.
It's not in the very back of your packet?
oh,
Well, golly, I thought I did it.
but it says everything to do with us going with the same people that can service
What?
our generator.
That didn't
It
say
says
much.
Oh.
yeah.
I guess I just didn't copy all of them, I thought I
They've
did.
done a great job, we've never had any issues.
Can you take mine and go copy?
Y'all are making me exercise a lot.
To me, it's just.
It's sitting long enough, or they sure, right?
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
While she's doing that, let me point out something to you that was kind of glossed over a little bit. The additional cost for the generator, the $10,000, was not presented in the budget that you reviewed. It will be in the budget before you finally approve it. It is now in the budget, so that is a new item in addition to the carryover of the 55, which was in the budget that you reviewed earlier.
What 10,000 you talking?
We're gonna have to add
The one is-
50,000. It was 55 this time.
here's it real
I
fast.
don't have an ordinance.
Hey, she's getting it.
She's getting a copy.
She wants you to get
Sorry,
it.
yeah. I thought I did it.
I know he wanted to use the same
I told you
guy.
you glossed over
We
it.
do.
Right.
There's
And
a,
this ordinance doesn't have anything to do with the cost. This has to do with who's
Watch this.
Wait a minute.
Preparing it,
who's
keeping
preparing it,
it.
who's doing it. The cost has everything to do with, it's already in the budget, we're carrying over the 55, but we're going to add 10 to it.
Who's the people you used before?
Uh,
Or who are using
Well,
now?
I'm trying to think of the name they actually go by when they're doing this, but it's, not, I'm gonna say, I almost said it wrong.
Bubba and Associates.
No, just a second.
Greenwood Garage Door.
No, they're not.
The number they go by when they're doing this,
It's
it
not
sounds
cheap.
kind of fishy.
Is it the same name of the company that has the generator? It's not like Generac.
No, it's a generator. Yeah, I'll have to blame on Corley Electric.
Yeah.
It's Corley Electric. When they put in the generators, they have the different corporate name they put in by as a supplier. But Corley Electric does all of our service. And we talked about putting that in there, and she told me, well, we normally not.
For some reason, in past competitive bidding ordinances, I looked at about 8 of them, and we don't name the vendor in there, we just name the reason.
But yeah, it's Corley Electric. But anyway, they've done a good job for us and been servicing it ever since they installed it. And we'd like to go with the same system. When after I talked with the engineer, he said that we've made the best choice in the past. So he said otherwise you're going to get about 4 bids from companies that might not be so great in servicing and taking care of it.
And so to put a bow on the 55 grand, what you had in the budget for this second generator was 55, but it's now going to be 65.
Yeah, because of the pad and the piping and the connections. I will tell you, I talked with the neighbor over there. They want us to put up a privacy fence. That's not in the budget. We'll try to figure out, we're going to wait till we see what we got, because this is budding right up to the edge. If you know the station there, it's right on the property line. But these are the same ones that got upset when we cut the tree limbs that were touching the fire station because we cut the tree limbs. So I told them we would do something, whether it's bushes or a privacy fence.
Station 2.
Yeah, station 2.
You were the
Don't mow the grass.
There you go.
So
Anyway,
anyway,
grass growing by, I don't know.
because she was like, you know, I said, we had a big old generator here, so we'd like to look at it.
Wait till we
I said,
start.
We'll address that.
Well, you can say when your house catches on fire, we'll discuss mowing
Yeah.
while we're
I
there.
just want to make sure the door's open.
We go there first about
Anyway, so we're asking so we can go with them.
The other one's to
Keep on
east
the.
Probably. It would be an emergency.
Yeah.
Why is it an emergency?
Why is it an emergency? It doesn't have to be emergency, you can do it 3 times, it's going to be next year.
You want to do it 3 times?
Carry
No,
over
no.
to next year.
Okay.
It's carried into next year.
I thought you were like gonna get it now.
I don't think the cost is gonna change much because of the extra skin we're putting into it, so you don't have to do it by emergency clause if you don't want to. It's
So
just-
you will have to get it in like April or March?
Yeah, we don't want to wait that late. March would be good. It's very March.
Well, the reason probably this is because the second, third readings are kind of useless in this situation. I don't think we're going to get, except maybe the people that maybe next door come and complain.
It's
Well,
up to
you
you
can wait
guys.
till second, third reading and adopt it.
Yeah.
It's done in 30 days, and
Yeah.
they got here.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
Remove the emergency.
Yeah.
No, I think they want the emergency.
Oh.
No, we can wait.
Remove the emergency, just wait till second, third reading.
Yeah, that'll be 30 days and be ready.
That's fine.
Okay, so make a
We're not
motion
gonna do
to
this
what
till
you
next
want.
year anyway.
Go, who started making a motion? Somebody?
Nobody started.
I'll make a motion that we adopt this ordinance by title only.
Second.
Put it on first reading by title only.
We're on first reading by title only. Wait a minute.
Mr. Maker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
I'll concern.
It's unanimous. It's an ordinance waiving competitive bidding for the purchase of the generator and related service for the fire department and for other purposes.
I make a motion that we suspend the rules and waive second and third reading.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Mr. Maker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
You're on it.
Tim knows.
We play this game.
Multi.
Tim knows.
Motion second to adopt.
All right, Mr. Maker?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Gentlemen, good job. Department reports and questions from council. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here.
I just have, one, person that lives across from, 3527 Brighton Drive, saying that, that lot was, has been overgrown, and we can get it mowed.
Yeah, we're going to Sunday about that.
It's on 3527 Brighton Drive.
That's that Renaro.
It's on the copper.
Get that, Sonny?
Yeah.
Is it
I got an email from a lady too, who was kind of complaining, she evidently been trying to get something done, hadn't had any luck, so she was just from the holler.
empty lot?
Same one. A lot across from her, yeah.
I've heard from her, I'll be sure that I sent the guy letters, he's in Arizona.
Is it
This
Rachel
one we need to,
Saltwater?
so this one we need to mow on our own and.
I mean, we can send our guys out there.
I'd like to, because
Okay.
it's been a while since she hasn't had any
Let's
satisfaction.
do that. Remind me more and we'll get that done.
Y'all let me run around.
Right.
There's not gonna grow, right now, it's not gonna grow till.
City's gonna buy a herd of goats and,
Hey.
I don't laugh, it happens.
no,
I know a guy's got some goats.
There's a crew in Fayetteville that does it.
they work.
Bubba Associates.
Anything else for department heads?
Mayor, did you ask Dennis about the street light out there on,
I did not.
Crook Creek?
Thank you. Crooked Creek, entrance going in there by Dr. Bailey's. Is that ours?
If there's street lights,
Yes, sir. Okay, it's really dim, right?
It's like one candle power, it's real dark.
We just need to get that
right there.
Loose connection or something.
So you're saying you want the dim street light to use repair?
Yeah.
It's right there on Cook Creek, right? It's a bit.
Yeah, right there, it's just really dark when you turn off the center on
Hamilton?
at Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's really dark.
Which day, Joe?
There's a light there, but it doesn't seem to be doing much.
I mean, that's not here, that's really just us getting a poll number and calling
That's all it is.
Arkansas
Yeah, I
Valley.
mean, I don't know if it needs another light or I don't know.
We'll turn it in.
It's just dark.
They've been working down Center Street. I saw them out there the other day at Dr. Bishop's place, and then they were coming right on down Center Street towards the town, but that's what we need to do is call them.
The way how they get them with those new ones, those new generations, whatever, are really bright.
I think that's what they're doing. They say, I think they're changing out bulbs.
Okay.
Bulbs.
Yeah, really.
Do we need to wait till tomorrow with the budget deal to talk about traffic signal money, or if we do it tonight? Put money in the budget to buy traffic signals? Or no?
You want more traffic lights?
I didn't think you liked traffic.
I can't tell from you.
I do not like them, I'm just one.
Oh.
There was, remember the rumor we heard about one out on 71 and Spur?
No charge to us.
Oh, we got it free.
That one?
2021.
Yeah, December
Well,
2020.
we'll
Yeah, I know
have
that.
electric bill.
Except for the electric bill.
I'm well aware of the things. So we're gonna build a bypass around town until we run into more stoplights.
Correct.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Beautiful.
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 Love
Is
story.
it too late to vote against that? side?
Certainly not.
Yes.
No, it's, no.
Are we in the council forum now?
Whatever you want, yes.
Whatever you want it to
He'll entertain it.
So where are we at with our
be. I'll
sidewalk?
motion to adjourn.
You really want to answer on the line? I don't know if you can, I do know that it was presented to council by, maybe not resolution, but I thought it was to pick one of those projects and the lesser of the evil,
Well,
I
I'd
suppose.
sure like to see that vote.
The lesser of the evil, I suppose, ended up being that one.
Wait, one of which is two projects?
That light, or the light that would be at, what's Walmart? They were considering a traffic
Oh,
signal.
yeah, I'm against both.
When you voted, somebody voted to send that on to the RDOT to allow that point at
I
7.
don't think it was me.
We're gonna have to feed, we're gonna dig into some medicine, figure that out. Truly, honestly.
Lee Johnson did
But
that.
I do not.
We'll look for
We should have talked to him.
All I
about
can
that.
remember is there was a wreck at 71 and 10 Spur, and the kid driving was under the influence, the kid riding shotgun died, and the mom was upset. And unfortunately, it wasn't the city of Greenwood's fault, it was the fact that the kid was under the influence driving, but I don't think he died in the wreck.
still
Well,
have
there's
to
been
that.
And there was a
yellow
couple of
line
wrecks.
still going there, I mean, you know, it's just gonna be.
A couple more there
Stoplight.
at the same time. There happened to be 2 or 3 incidents in that, well, like a month or 2 span.
Yeah, there's been several.
Yes.
The guy-
A couple of weeks ago.
The
It's
guy,
not
that
called suicide curve for no
the
reason.
guy that can speak upon it just left, so.
Well, I know that, but there's wrecks in front of McDonald's too, where all those stoplights up there.
I think that was just, but that was really kind of an RDOT kind of recommendation. I mean,
Yeah.
Certainly was a recommendation.
well,
I think it was,
either or.
I think we requested it
Somebody did,
of RDOT.
To do a study.
to do a study,
And they
yes.
came back with those two.
Yeah, either this or that.
The same RDOT that raises the speed limit, do they do that too, or no?
We requested that speed limit up.
A different guy that requested the stoplight.
Same guy, I think.
Because that guy wanted the speed limit lower out there.
Oh, you said it's right, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That guy did. He didn't want it back at 55.
Right. I'll dig up the minutes and stuff.
We'll
August
Rather sharp.
2017.
Huh?
August 2017, 7th day of August. That's the resolution that was signed and approved by the City Council. Traffic signal installation at the intersection of Highway 71 and Highway 10 Spur.
Wow.
He's on it.
You got a vote?
All from memory.
You got a vote?
I don't have.
He doesn't live in the city limits.
I have
Daniel,
the,
stop dreaming.
You can find the minutes of the September meeting in 2017. You'll have the voters there of the August meeting.
Well, it was passed.
Certainly was through this
And
house.
I think Ralph was the deciding vote.
Yeah, Ralph wasn't here. Way to go, Ralph. That was a
He
good
might have been
thing.
at Deer Camp.
Wasn't here yet.
You're getting
He
code.
might have been at Deer Camp.
COVID can't.
Go, Jack. Alcohol will kill it.
We brag on the street department for a second. They were out at the Oak subdivision today patching several roll-ups, I don't know what you call them, but major disruption in asphalt out there, so appreciate that. I can't brag on anybody else in there, I can't remember what you do. Just kidding.
Great.
Except for her, good job here. I'm kidding. They all do a good job. Any other thing for these department heads? Or me? Or Charlotte?
Sidewalk update.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
Tinsburg.
Yeah.
We are 9 or 10 away from hitting. Ma'am?
Danielle's working on that every day, and we've
Yeah.
got some that are just stone walls, and I keep saying condemnation.
And it was
I
other
have
advice.
got, I think that we are down to 10 still, but we have 2 that are about to come in. Baptist Health took a long time to get a response. I think I've counted 10 times I've emailed and called multiple times. They finally wrote me back last week that it's up in Pennsylvania, matter of fact, the Baptist Health location. That gentleman who I've been in contact with said that he had been given the okay to sign it. He was just gonna have to do a verbal consent with the tenant and the leasing, and then he could send it to me. And Bancorp South sent back today a newly updated version of their
Second
revised version of their easement. I have forwarded on to Jeremy Shores and Mike Canby to take a look at it and let me know if I can send it back to them for a signature.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and
The names of the people that won't sign it.
I'll just go ahead and tell you who they are. I made them not to do that last time. Let's just go ahead and do it.
You know, all out?
Yep.
Call them out.
Yeah.
And these are not necessarily, some of these are corporately owned out of state.
That we have talked to numerous of
Oh.
my. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
trying to do by memory again.
And so what is their hangup? I mean,
Some of them want money.
They want
oh, they
compensation.
want
They
compensation.
do not do, one eating establishment in town, can I say it?
Yeah.
Arby's said, we do not donate easements.
Well,
Get back with me with an appraisal and we'll go from there.
Well, we don't need a sidewalk at Arby's, walk across the parking lot.
Taco Bell also wants money.
Same.
But there is a place for sidewalk. I mean, here's, look, every business along Tinsburg, from Dr. Singer's on Denver, all the way to, bring in the,
I'm gonna go get a list.
okay,
Bill is.
from there all the way to
you're
Golden
gonna be
Year,
surprised at
on
some.
that side of the road, on the north side, And then starting on at Matt Corp on this north side, south side, from Matt Corp, even though, now some of these spots you'll look at and go, really, we need one there? Well, you don't, you can walk in the parking lot, but the idea is to have and it may be from here to Councilman Terry.
Plus you have to have an easement.
Yeah, so we are seeking a temporary construction easement and a permanent 5-foot sidewalk easement from all these businesses, and from Backcorp side, it's all the way from there to the Storecraft building. And the list of people that are either unreachable, and really that's nobody now, or uncooperative, or
Okay, we have 10 that we are still lacking out of 36. The first one, like I mentioned, is Baptist Health. That one's supposed to be on the way. The next one is the Morlocks, who own the property,
the little rent house
little
beside.
rent house out in front of the Bulldog Auto Repair, kind of next to the cleaners.
They are out of state, but we've contacted them.
I have contacted them numerous times. They are not interested. They feel like the dollar wording in the easement is a joke, and they're just not.
So I
house.
It's the house, yeah.
Back
that's
to
it.
Locke's house.
Yes.
So I authorize her to double the compensation.
Yeah, they're not wanting to cooperate. I've offered if we can call them, I've given them the mayor's number, I've given them my number. I went to school with the wife of one of them. It's under Edgar and Michael, and I've been talking to Michael about it. O'Reilly's, another one that is out of state. I have emailed her at least 10 times and called numerous times. I just left a voicemail yesterday again. Bradley Oliver, he is not interested.
Where's he
That's what
at?
he said.
He didn't want to participate.
He is right next to O'Reilly, that group of
Little apartments.
It always has a mattress out.
Little fourplex.
Why not?
because he wants to see it.
We bought.
He's not sure what the sidewalk looks like.
Don't all sidewalks look the same?
Assisting.
Don't all sidewalks look the same?
I'm sending pictures of sidewalks.
Yeah, the next one is range management, which finally got a hold of them. Keith Law is actually, who is the director of the city of Fort Smith. He actually is managing that property, so he is supposed to be in contact
Tell them where that is.
with the owner. That's like where the nutrition den is and tobacco store, Pizza
He's supposed
Hut.
to mail that
He's
yesterday.
supposed to mail it. We have not gotten it back yet. The next one is Taco Bell. They have asked several questions as far as construction plans on the easement. They've gotten with Jeremy Shores, and she wrote back today to Sunny that she has not heard back from Jeremy Shores.
And they want compensation.
They do want compensation, and so I have.
Taco Bell?
Yes.
Is that
And so I forwarded that to Jeremy Shores.
It's not came back to those property.
Okay, ain't going on the
No, they do not. It is under realty income properties. That one is, I can't remember exactly what town that one is. The next one is Backport South. We should have that any day, as soon as Mike Canby and Jeremy Shores approve it. The next one is the Church of Latter-day Saints. I have talked to their bishop twice now. Again, they are not interested, as they have a sidewalk already in front of their church. They said.
Well,
Close
it's
to
right
the
up
church.
against, that's right up against the building.
Yes. And that's been mailed numerous times, and I've also reached out to the missionary girls that are there now too, to see if they could put a button in the air. Still nothing. And then the next one is Arby's. It's actually owned by a place called National Retail Properties in Orlando. It took me a long time to get somebody to speak to me there. Their response was, we do not donate easements. And then the last one is Storecraft, so we're never gonna get that one.
Storecraft is really not necessary.
Right, it's like little
That's,
thing.
that's where the thing ends.
Yeah, it's about.
But it has
So-
been emailed to them numerous times.
If I followed all that, on the north side, which was phase one, right?
Well, it's all
This
phase
is all phase one.
Oh, all that was phase one?
All of it.
Okay, so on the north side, we've got Taco Bell, which isn't that big a deal. I mean, we'd like to have it, but if you were walking, you could walk on.
Here's the problem with where you're headed with this. RDOT has approved a sidewalk. We have not been yet. I've not got an answer from them to say, go build what you've got and just adjust to it. They approved and gave funding for a full project. We may
The
not.
big kicker to that is Morlock, isn't it?
Hanover and Morlock.
There's 3 or 4.
O'Reilly's.
Yeah, there's.
But all those others, I mean, what you're saying, I completely understand.
Yeah.
But with what you're,
Oh, you mean, to really get from point A to B?
yeah, physically get out.
Morlocks is an issue.
You can get from A to B,
It is
except
the
for
worst,
Morlock.
it is the most complicated, and it's not
Yeah.
complicated, but it is the most complicated of all.
Kinda got a little ditch and all
sections.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could physically walk it,
Sure.
except for Morlock.
RDOT wants an easement whether or not you have a sidewalk there or not. Or it's, you know,
And-
if you're going across a parking lot, there's not gonna be a sidewalk there, but they want the easement that says people can walk along through that.
Obviously, Jaegers is only a sidewalk in that green area. It's not really green right
Yeah.
now, obviously, where they used to put their chain link fence and
Yeah.
dog pens and stuff. You're gonna be walking more on both driveways, or as much as that as you are the sidewalk.
But they've given the easement, right?
Yeah, there's no
Yes.
problem. I just used them as an example.
Yeah, Sunny got that.
Yeah.
You know, theoretically, somebody that was a property owner in the, between point A and point B could say, you can't walk across my yard if we don't have that easement.
Yeah.
So therefore, the sidewalk is, you know, stops on both sides. So they need that easement that says that they're gonna allow people to walk on there.
And as you said, somebody just used the term condemnation, and
I did.
our city attorney said that himself, which I don't know. These companies that are out, that we are able to talk to, and Danielle's talked to, Sonny's talked to, and I've either talked to or I even talked to an attorney that knows somebody through, that owns the company and that owns Taco Bell property, which I was shocked to hear wasn't there, they're leasing it.
Right.
Most of them are, one lady told me, and I think it was her, said, you're dealing with a company in California that does not, you know, they don't want, and they probably don't, well, they know where we are because they have stored property here, but they are not used to giving anything away. And can we, and, you know, there's always, do we want to compensate these folks? Or, you know, that's a thing to be considered, I suppose, but you hate to start it, I guess.
Depends on how much the compensation.
Well, and when one of them wasn't really about, one of them wanted us to pay for the, what was it? Not a survey,
No appraisal?
an appraisal. Like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was Arby's.
Was that Arby's?
And I think Taco Bell maybe have mentioned it as well.
So it's not been an easy, I mean,
But since the attorney said our city attorney said condemnation, can we go ahead and give
you
that?
need one to have to do it. So,
Condemn it, you gotta pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you would only pay the value of that land, right?
Yeah.
Which would be.
you know, in some of these properties, it's interesting, Mr.
Bradley on.
Bradley's, for instance, the sidewalk will be in the highway right-of-way. We've determined that it's on the outside of the poles. That kind of gives you a general where the right-of-way is. But we need, so you'd think you could get in there and build it, and none of his business, if you will. But it is, but we gotta have a construction easement, because you gotta construct it from his property, not from.
It's, you know, it's still his property. It's still his property,
Sure.
but it's highway easement.
Right.
That's
But typically an easement, you'd think, you'd almost, the highway can do what they want to do with that easement. But in this case, you gotta get equipment in there to, you know, and to build a sidewalk across that could probably take, I don't know, 4 hours.
Yeah.
But Danielle's working on it. and
It's very frustrating.
Mayor and I, like I said, we're down to the point of pulling our hair out.
So now you know why they, when I got the call that we have been approved for another 250,000, 250 or 2? I don't think we ever got the letter yet, but 200, let's call it, for phase 2, already approved. And they wanted to know, they as an RDOT, or RDOT said, do we roll that into project 1? I said, absolutely not. You know, we gotta get, because we may build phase 2 before we build phase 1.
So have you discussed with RDOT the issues that we're having?
Yeah, they've got a good clear.
And we're not on a timeline. We keep
Yeah,
making sure that we're not missing anything and, you know, that would cause major issues. They
But at
said as
some
long as
point-
we're making progress, that's good with them.
Yeah, but at some point, there's no more progress to be made if Arby
Yeah.
says, we ain't doing it.
Right.
right.
What does Arby say? Does
I mean,
that
I
make
think
the-
that would be the question to RDOT is, you know, if we just reach an impasse,
We lose the money.
will they let us build
I'm trying to get that answer.
where I was headed earlier?
Well, you know, and of course, we can tell them that we're in the process of condemnation too, and, you know, get an extension.
What if
that
a
way.
fire truck broke down in the Arby's driveway
Mhm.
for a month or two?
Like the ladder truck, I mean,
We can arrange that.
yes, wow, very creative.
Which truck is that?
I wish Harvey would ask me for a permit for remodel right now.
Mr. Marshall over here has found the minutes to
And I will answer, I now know why all of you are saying what you're saying. Let me read it to you.
When was this? Give us the date.
August 17th.
Okay.
Mayor Kinslow read a letter containing descriptions of the federal aid offers for installation of traffic signals at 2 locations, Highway 71 and Liberty Drive and Highway 71 and Highway 10 Spur. Mr. Powell asked who had determined that lights are needed at the 2 locations in question, to which Mayor Kinslow said it was presented to the Highway Department and they presented to the city cost of said lights. Chief Dawson said he had contacted Representative Douglas to see if the speed limit could be reduced, and the Highway Department conducted a study and determined that traffic lights are needed in those areas. Mayor Kinslow stated that for the record, no progressive city takes lights out, they put lights in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There was discussion, and Mr. Wiley said he recommends doing both of the installations. After discussion, a motion was made by Mr. Powell, seconded by Dr. Johnson, to approve the resolution for traffic signal installation at the intersection of Highway 71 and Highway 10 Spur. The vote was called and passed by majority, with the mayor exercising a yes vote, breaking the tie. Mr. McDaniel, Mr. Tim Terry, and Mr. Lance Terry voted no. Mr. Powell, Dr. Johnson, and A.C. Brown, and Mayor Kinslow voted yes. The motion passed.
So
by
it's
majority.
you two.
Ralph's name was not mentioned.
Resolution for the traffic signal installation at the intersection
Ralph
of
was in near camp.
Drive was voted upon, and there was not voted upon, and there was additional discussion. So,
That was interesting that you stated that progressive cities do not.
Take one that
He was younger then.
Conway's about the most progressive city, and
But
there
they,
are more roundabouts.
what do they replace it with? If you're replacing it with a roundabout, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. You can't just, progressive,
What did you say?
progressive meaning you don't take something out and do nothing else.
Okay.
No roundabouts.
There's no roundabouts.
No. I like
I'd
roundabouts.
like a roundabout right there. Wouldn't that be awesome?
If you want, you can sit there and laugh all day long watching somebody go round and round.
I'll bring the popcorn.
I think you put a stoplight, they're gonna be backed up to shadow length.
He's getting about with a semi-truck.
They're all rear-ending each other like they do up there at 45, but that's not.
I swear to God, the first big wreck.
All right.
It will be a rear-ending wreck right there in front of
What time we
the
say meeting was tomorrow night?
6.
6 o'clock budget study session tomorrow night for general fund and for the street fund,
And gumbo will be served.
jumbo and or chicken and dumplings.
Oh,
Please save me a bowl of gumbo, because I'm gonna be about 30 minutes late again.
No.
I was making Friday work tonight in the high school basketball game, that's why I'm late.
Hey, do you need, we didn't get,
I'll get to everybody.
this whole deal's
I'm glad you
giving me a
showed
headache.
up.
Well, I mean, I was texting Charles, I'm trying to get there.
You need a Sonny's coronavirus vaccine.
so,
Make a motion with adjourn.
wait a minute. Okay,
second.
I just want to say that Drew, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You're a trooper for sticking it
Go,
out.
Drew.
It's entertaining.
It is.
Will is not here.
I'm bringing popcorn next time.
Our department head meeting this morning.
It's only because you're new.
He announced, if you do not know, that Josh Morton, and you might have seen it on Facebook, has decided to retire for obvious reasons, health reasons. So please, please, please keep him and his family in your prayers. I know Lance is on the road, or
He
maybe
just got home.
just got home with Earl. I don't know the report, so Anybody else that's got sick folks to remember, Bob's recovered. He didn't look very good, but he's recovering.
I didn't look very good before.
You can't play the piano anymore.
That's it. Thank you.
Luncheon, what's the deal with the luncheon email we got?
Yeah, that's the same thing we had last year,
City appreciation,
for
employee
employee
appreciation.
appreciation luncheon,
Bell Park,
the 17th at noon, Tina
and
Skaggs is
please come,
catering.
lots of food.
Ham, turkey dressing, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, green beans, rolls, and assorted cakes and pies that are my favorite.
I got work to do, I'll swing by or
Coming
something.
back. Thanks, guys. Entertainment.
Second,
Oh, her.
well, you made the motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those chairs after about,
I know, I
when you sit down.
Then after about half an hour, you start getting a little
Blast from the back.
Last from first. After the I didn't remember. Dennis, stand by. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Charlotte,
Yes.